Chapter 770 Karma and Memory. Chapter 770 Karma and Memory Immortal World Endless Sea. Hanju stood on the beach. The waves slapped over like strings of white flowers. There was no end to them. The sky here was so blue and short. The slightly salty sea breeze blew over, causing Hanju's long hair to flutter slightly. He narrowed his eyes. He was really relaxed. After walking in the immortal world for decades, he had been to cultivation sects, mortal cities, seen the majesty of the palace and temples, and also seen the peaceful joy of the commoners. He had also encountered many evil things. But really, the heavenly Tao was in a peaceful situation. How could there be an absolutely peaceful world? As for encountering evil, Hanju wouldn't interfere because he could see that when those evil people were committing sins, their fate was also walking towards destruction. If he killed those who committed sins, perhaps it would be satisfying, but Hanju could already see that their future was miserable. They might not even reincarnate as humans in the next life. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. This was the situation of mighty figures. This was why those mighty figures with good intentions did not help others. Because they could see far ahead. If he saved one person today, and this person avoided this calamity, there might be an even greater calamity waiting for him. Even of course, this was a different situation. When the difference in the cultivation realm was not great, if there was kindness and justice, they should act and accumulate merit for themselves. They would constantly grow and save more people. Hanju was not unkind, but he was already above the rules of the world. Intervening would only break the order. Mortals wouldn't stand up for ants in the courtyard. It's indeed not bad to come out occasionally, Hanju muttered to himself and smiled. He felt that he was the main reason why the heavenly Tao could be where it was today. Perhaps he didn't build the heavenly Tao, but even heavenly venerate Xian Du had to ask him about its development direction. If not for him, the heavenly Tao would have been destroyed countless times over. Hanju walked along the sea aimlessly. Rows of birds flew past the sky. Boom! The sea suddenly exploded as a black fish the size of a mountain leaped out, covering the sky. A figure stood above it. It was a blue-robed man holding a sword. Ha ha ha. Evil beast, you're still far from being able to eat me. The blue-robed man smiled in high spirits. He turned around and slashed with his sword. Sword chi swept out and blood splattered. The black fish's head was chopped into two. It did not leave its body, and actually roared like a tiger or lion. The black fish fell into the sea, stirring up thousands of feet of waves. The seawater evaporated when it was about to land on Hanju. Hanju glanced at it and sighed. I've never experienced such a soul-stirring adventure. I'm really envious. The blue-robed man leaped and landed in front of him, putting the sword back into the sheath. He patted his robe and said with a smile, Brother, you're good. I can't sense your aura. Hanju said, Since you can't sense it, how dare you block the way? The blue-robed man smiled. Isn't traveling the world to make good friends? I'm Gu Heng. May I know your name? Hanju smiled faintly. I can't let you know my name. Otherwise, you will suffer great karma. Gu Heng was stunned. What a pretentious prick. He had always thought that he was good at pretending. He didn't expect to meet someone even more pretentious. Gu Heng smiled. Oh, is that so? Brother, let me try and see if I can withstand the great karma. Hanju suddenly raised his hand and pressed his shoulder. So fast. Gu Heng's pupils dilated in shock. His gaze met Hanju's eyes, and a terrifying pressure enveloped his heart. He was so frightened that he knelt in front of him. Hanju smiled and brushed past him. He was a great Tao sage after all. Why was he calculative with mortals? In a few steps, Hanju disappeared at the end of the coastline. After a long while, Gu Heng came back to his senses and stood up trembling. He looked in the direction Hanju left in fear, and muttered to himself, Who is he? I'm at the fucking 6 mystic divine origin. He liked to pretend to be weak. Previously, he had suppressed his aura to the cultivation of a grand unity true immortal, and traveled the world, playing with the mortal world. It was too ridiculous to make a 6 mystic divine origin expert directly kneel on the ground. Gu Heng had been to the Sage Tao field. He was puzzled. Who was that person just now? He recalled carefully, and was horrified to find that he could no longer remember the other party's appearance. In a temple, Hanju sat in front of the small table and drank tea. Opposite him knelt a white-robed monk. It was the white-robed Buddha, who had submitted to him a long time ago, the reroll world's current master. The white-robed Buddha was very excited about Hanju's arrival. He thought that Hanju had already forgotten about him, but he was not dissatisfied. After all, with the karma between the reroll world and Hanju, the sages took good care of him. Hanju smiled and said, "The reroll world has developed well. There are 10 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals." The white-robed Buddha suppressed his excitement and said respectfully, "It's all thanks to your nurturing." Not only was the current reroll world developed and prosperous, but it was also vast. It could be considered the genuine second mortal world. The Jade Pure Sacred Sect was still around, and was already the oldest holy land with a deep foundation. The previous holy land, the Heavenly Immortal Manor, had perished in the war between the righteous and demonic cultivators hundreds of thousands of years ago. Originally, the Jade Pure Sacred Sect was also about to perish. Fortunately, the white-robed Buddha protected it. The white-robed Buddha knew very well the Jade Pure Sacred Sect's importance. Perhaps Hanju no longer cared about it, but seeing it would definitely trigger memories. It was enough as long as he had memories. This was the difference between the reroll world and the other mortal worlds. Once the Jade Pure Sacred Sect was gone, Hanju would completely sever ties with the reroll world. The white-robed Buddha seemed to have thought of something and said, "By the way, your sect master Li Qingzi reincarnated back then. He's now a prodigy of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect." Hanju looked at him deeply, causing him to lower his head. "Crap. I was too deliberate." The white-robed Buddha secretly regretted it. He was too anxious. Hanju should have accidentally discovered this before it was effective. How could he say it himself? "Thank you for your kind intentions. Let nature take its course. I won't forget your efforts." Hanju picked up his teacup and drank it in one gulp. Li Qingzi was already an old friend of the previous calamity. How long had it been since the reincarnation? Furthermore, some ghosts had died in the Tao destruction mystical power. The reason why Li Qingzi could avoid it was probably that someone protected him and prevented him from reincarnating in the calamity. The white-robed Buddha was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly said that he did not deserve it. Hanju stayed in the temple for a few months before leaving. During this time, he even taught the white-robed Buddha mystical power. In a valley, a man in cloth clothes was practicing his sword in a bamboo forest. He was only practicing his sword techniques. His dermic powers were not leaked or even stirred up any waves. "How about I teach you a sword technique?" A voice floated over. The man turned around and saw an extremely handsome man appear not far away, smiling at him. The man asked warily, "Who are you? Why haven't I seen you in the Jade Pure Sacred Sect?" Hanju stared at his completely unfamiliar face and smiled. "I can make you the strongest in the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Tell me, do you want to learn it?" The man frowned and said in a low voice, "No." Chapter 771 Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial. Chapter 771 Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial. Hearing the man's answer, Hanju was a little stunned. Back then, Li Qingzi often used all sorts of benefits to lure him out, but he also rejected him. After a million years, Li Qingzi had completely changed. He was no longer that old friend. Perhaps the soul was still that soul, but the person had changed unknowingly. Hanju suddenly felt that reincarnation was meaningless. In the end, the ones who benefited from reincarnation were only the mighty figures who had descended into the mortal world to train. To mortals, what was the difference between drinking Mengpo's soup and being destroyed in body and soul? Not all mortals could encounter a mighty figure to awaken their memories. Perhaps the existence of reincarnation was just that mighty figures did not dare to destroy ghosts and were afraid of bearing negative karma. After all, new souls were born in the world at every moment. They didn't come from the netherworld, but from the heavenly Tao. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M. Hanju smiled and asked, "Are you really not learning it?" The man said warily, "What are you trying to do? This is the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. You will quickly be discovered if you dare to attack me." Hanju was amused. The more you refuse, the more I want to teach you. No one will hear you even if you shout your lungs out. I've already isolated this bamboo forest. The man turned around and ran like the wind. Hanju raised his hand and moved him back, pressing him to the ground. The man's face smashed into the grass. He felt as if he was pressed down by a mountain and could not move. Kid, you're still not cautious enough. You should have fled the moment you saw me, because you didn't sense my appearance. It meant that I wanted to secretly approach you with ill intentions. You have to be more cautious in your next life. Hanju smiled disdainfully. The man felt despair. That's right. Why am I so stupid? Endless regret surged in the man's heart. He suffered a heavy blow and fainted. The sunlight shone on his face, and the man felt an itch. He slowly opened his eyes. He suddenly widened his eyes and jumped up. He looked around warily, but Hanju was already gone. He was stunned to find that he could not remember the man's face. Could it be a dream? The man discovered that there was a new memory in his mind. It was a sword technique. Heavenly Sword Dao. It's not a dream. It's real. The man touched his body and discovered that his clothes were clean, and he was not injured. What did the other party want? He couldn't help but recall the Heavenly Sword Dao, and was gradually moved. What a domineering sword technique. No, it was the Sword Dao. Did I encounter a calamity or a benefactor? The man muttered to himself. He carefully tried to recall Hanju's true appearance, but to no avail. However, that blurry figure gave him a sense of familiarity that he hadn't felt for a long time. It was as if he was very familiar with this figure a long time ago. This vague sense of familiarity suddenly caused a sense of sorrow to surge into his heart. The man fell into a daze. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. After 100 years, the soul fragment had already ended its journey. Its soul dissipated, and all its memories surged into his mind. He also sighed. He met some old friends during this trip. Although things had changed, the memories were still there. Hanju adjusted his state of mind and smiled. After relaxing, it's time to cultivate and find a place for the third Dao field. Hanju's heart skipped a beat. Soon Liu Bei came to visit. Liu Bei was Hanju's reincarnation avatar. He had once possessed the body of the victorious fighting Buddha, and was now a pseudo-sage. Back then, Liu Bei had gone to find a place to hide the hidden sect island. Liu Bei knelt in front of Hanju respectfully. He looked calm, but his heart was surging. He was both surprised and panicked. He was pleasantly surprised that Hanju still remembered him, and panicked that Hanju would probably give him a mission. He had inherited Hanju's personality, and was timid and cautious. However, his cultivation had stagnated for a long time. He needed an opportunity to break through. This mission was an opportunity. Hanju said, I need you to go to the chaos and find a suitable location for the Dao field. You can't mention this to anyone. Are you willing? This period of time is very long. It will probably be difficult to find it in hundreds of thousands of years. I will teach you a mystical power. If you are in danger, you can summon me at any time. Chaos. Hundreds of thousands of years. Liu Bei trembled in fear. He wanted to refuse, but he could not. What? You're not willing? Then forget it. Hanju was a little disappointed when he saw no reaction from him. Liu Bei immediately looked up and said, I'm willing. Hanju smiled in satisfaction. What do you need to prepare? Liu Bei shook his head. There's no need to prepare. Hanju immediately waved his sleeve, and sent him out of the heavenly Dao. Although the chaos was huge, it was still very difficult to encounter a primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal. Without stepping into a great opportunity, it was very difficult for a pseudo-sage to be targeted by a primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal. The karma on Liu Bei was the victorious fighting Buddha. They couldn't deduce that he was Hanju's clone. At most, they could deduce that he was related to the hidden sect. Now the hidden sect had at least 5 million disciples training in the chaos. This identity was not worth mentioning. Hanju's enemies were not stupid enough to think that they could use a hidden sect disciple to threaten him. NCO, however, Liu Bei would definitely encounter some difficulties. Hanju had to be prepared. He began to use the derivation function. Can I control the heaven-opening axe if I upgrade it again? The mystical destiny book wouldn't recognize him as its master. making him wary of the ultimate supreme treasure. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? A quadrillion years. This was already the value of a Tao creator. Continue. Yes, but Panga will sense it when the upgrade succeeds. Hanju showed a frown. Panga's cultivation level could not be seen for the time being. In Hanju's heart, he was an existence that could not be provoked. Forget it, I won't upgrade it for the time being. It's enough as it is anyway. Hanju immediately entered the simulation trial and fought 100 foolish sword sages with the ultimate Tao treasure, heaven-opening axe. Slaughter. Awesome. Again. 200 could still be slaughtered easily. 300 was too many. He could barely win. 400 of them were impossible to beat. But he could still last for a while. 500. Damn it, he couldn't withstand 10 breaths of time. Hanju left the simulation trial. He was still very confident. Such strength could already dominate everyone below the Great Tao Supreme Realm. They were all mysterious and rare existences that would not appear easily. It was impossible for Liu Bei to provoke an existence at the Great Tao Supreme level. Hanju closed his eyes and started cultivating. Time passed quickly. 50,000 years passed in a flash. Hanju came to the second Tao field and released the Wood Breath Fiend Celestial he had nurtured previously to let Morongqi receive him. The second Tao field already had 21 chaotic Fiend Celestials. It was a very powerful force, but it was still far from becoming an army. Hanju chatted with Li Yao in Tao Comprehension, Sword before returning to the main Tao field. He was about to check his emails when he suddenly frowned. This feeling is... Hanju felt inexplicably uneasy, as if something was summoning him from afar. He began to deduce. A voice sounded in Hanju's mind. I am the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial. The Great Tao Immeasurable Calamity is coming. The Primordial Fiend Celestial will rise by stepping on the Chaotic Fiend Celestials. I invite all the Chaotic Fiend Celestials to the Grand Primordium Domain. I will unite all the Chaotic Fiend Celestials to resist the Great Tao Immeasurable Calamity together. Chapter 772 3000 Fiend Celestials Primordial Pill. Chapter 772 3000 Fiend Celestials. Primordial Pill. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial summoned the Chaotic Fiend Celestials. Hanju narrowed his eyes. This was not a good sign. Although he had already hidden that he was a Primordial Fiend Celestial, there could only be one Primordial Fiend Celestial in the chaos. They would have to face each other sooner or later. Even if it was not him, his son would become the Chaotic Fiend Celestial's public enemy. I want to know the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial's cultivation level. Hanju used the derivation function. 500 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. / Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M, Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial. Late Stage Great Tao Supreme Realm, Chaotic Fiend Celestial. One of the 3000 Fiend Celestials of the Primordial Era. The introduction was very simple. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial's figure appeared in Hanju's mind. His figure was terrifying and indescribable. His aura was fearless and filled with the terrifying aura of an invincible expert. Hanju frowned. Very strong. The reason why the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial sent a voice transmission to him was probably that it believed that he was also a Chaotic Fiend Celestial. Would he be rejected by the Chaotic Fiend Celestials and even become enemies if he didn't go? Or he could use his clone to give the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial face and understand the situation. But where was the Grand Primordium Domain? Hanju frowned. At this moment, a memory surged into his mind. It was a vast map that pointed to the location of the Grand Primordium Domain. Hanju was surprised. What method was this? He could actually recall memories from afar. Most importantly, he had never seen the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial before. Hanju waved a soul fragment and let it move, quickly entering the depths of the chaos. After that he checked the emails. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren has absorbed the will of all living beings and learned a mystical power. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your son Han Tua was suppressed by a mysterious mighty figure and fell into the endless abyss. Your disciple Zhou Fan was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend, the divine-robed Taoist, discussed the Tao with a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by your good friend ancestor Shitian, and was severely injured. Your good friend Huang Zuantian created 3,000 heaven and earth fiend celestials. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your disciple Dao Sovereign was attacked by a mysterious demon X7093218. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan, the evil heavenly emperor, Zhou Fan, and Han Tua were often beaten. Han Ju was already used to it. They would use the invocation technique if they really encountered irreconcilable trouble. As for Pan Xian, why was he fighting for his life again? Wasn't it just a Dharma treasure? Was it worth fighting to the death? Ancestor Shitian's cultivation level had been increasing ever since he had turned dark. He had already reached the late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos realm. Since Ancestor Shitian could severely injure Pan Xian with his strength, he could also easily kill him. It seemed that the ancestor was still benevolent. Hanju continued reading. Huang Zuantian had created 3,000 heaven and earth fiend celestials. What is it? Are you imitating me? Hanju suddenly remembered that the primordial origin in Huang Zuantian's body wanted to transform into a primordial fiend celestial. Hanju had already begun to create 3,000 fiend celestials, so primordial origin naturally could as well. However, he was not a primordial fiend celestial, so the fiend celestials he created were completely incomparable to the chaotic fiend celestials. Hanju began to look forward to Huang Zuantian's future. He actually didn't rely on Hanju. He relied almost entirely on himself to rise. Such people had great providence. In novels, they were all protagonists. Further down, Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, and Jiang Yi were still being beaten. However, the three of them had already used their strength to attain the Tao and become primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortals. They had improved and did not suffer in vain. As he read, Hanju seemed to be watching a drama. From his actions, he could imagine all sorts of soul-stirring and tragic stories. In short, nothing made Hanju uneasy for the time being. Then, he closed his eyes and continued cultivating. It had been 400,000 years since the last breakthrough. The next one was getting closer and closer. In the starry sky, wisps of seven-colored light circled the stars. On one of the gray stars, Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, and Jiang Yi meditated behind each other, forming a triangle. Jiang Yi suddenly asked, "Brothers, how long do we have to wait?" Dao Sovereign did not open his eyes as he said, "Let's wait a little longer. The time isn't ripe." Zhao Xianyuan grunted. Jiang Yi grumbled, "Is that fellow lying to us? He said that there's a supreme treasure hidden here. Could he be using us as bait?" Zhao Xianyuan couldn't help but say, "I'll really have to leave if we're deceived again. It might not be bad to stay in the 100-peak Immortal River and follow Master. Recently, Li Yao, Morong Qi, and the others have been secretly hidden by Master. There must be a huge opportunity. And that Zhou Fan, that kid actually surpassed the three of us. I can't tolerate this." Zhou Fan was now famous. With the heavenly court behind him, even the three of them, who were wandering around, had heard of the Great Tao Tower. Dao Sovereign said solemnly, "Zhao Xianyuan, I won't allow you to say such discouraging words. I've made you suffer all these years, but what benefits have I given you? Didn't I let you enjoy them first? Besides, the three of us have already become primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortals. Our cultivation speed is already considered fast. As for Zhou Fan, he's an exception. Look at the personal disciples of the 100-peak Immortal River. Most of them are still pseudo-sages. Since ancient times, sages as young as us are rare. They can be said to be the strongest prodigies of an era, people with great providence." Hearing Dao Sovereign's words, Zhao Xianyuan felt a headache. Jiang Yi couldn't help but interrupt. "You're going too far." Dao Sovereign was silent for a moment before saying, "Let's wait a little longer. We'll leave if he doesn't appear in 10 years. We can go to the heavenly court and the Great Tao Tower to take a look." Zhao Xianyuan and Jiang Yi heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Dao Sovereign would be stubborn. After hundreds of thousands of years of life and death, the three of them were already as close as brothers. They looked like they were complaining, but they would always advance and retreat together. Ha ha ha. 3 young friends, how can I lie to you? A loud laugh sounded. The 3 of them turned around and saw an old man in a raincoat flying over on a huge water buffalo. This water buffalo looked no different from the ones used in farming in the mortal world. Dao's sovereign stood up and asked, "Where is the supreme treasure?" The water buffalo landed on the ground. The elder in the raincoat smiled and said, "It's already in front of you. Look up and you'll see it." Shocked, the 3 of them hurriedly looked around. However, there was no sign of the supreme treasure. Zhao Xianyuan narrowed his eyes. Could it be those 7 colored lights? The elder in the raincoat stroked his beard and nodded. That's right. These lights are not simple. They are formed by a supreme treasure from the beginning of the chaos. I have a way to condense them into their true form. But this will attract the counterattack of the artifact's spirit. After it's done, the supreme treasure will be yours. I only want the pill hidden in the supreme treasure. Dao's sovereign asked, "What pill is it? Will the treasure be ruined after you take it?" The old man in the raincoat smiled. Of course not. This pill is not related to the supreme treasure. It's just that its master hid the pill inside it. I'll tell you the truth. This pill is called the primordial pill. It can create a primordial fiend celestial. If I give you this pill, it will definitely attract a fatal disaster. Dao's sovereign and the other 2 were moved. They had naturally heard of the legend of the primordial fiend celestial. It was said that it would cause a great Dao immeasurable calamity. Chapter 773 Cooperation, Grand Primordium Domain. Chapter 773 Cooperation, Grand Primordium Domain. Aren't you afraid of death? Dao's sovereign frowned. Zhao Xianyuan and Jiang Yi looked at each other and were secretly vigilant. The elder in the raincoat smiled and said, I'm naturally not afraid. Actually, the great Dao immeasurable calamity is only an excuse for the chaotic fiend celestials. The appearance of the primordial fiend celestial is the correct path. Just like how Pangu killed 3,000 chaotic fiend celestials back then, it was to become a primordial fiend celestial. Everything will sublimate, and all living beings will evolve when the chaos transforms into the primordial chaos. Only the chaotic fiend celestials related to the chaos must die. Dao's sovereign and the other 2 were deep in thought. They had naturally heard of the legends of Pangu, but they were only legends in the end. They couldn't be sure if the primordial fiend celestial was good or bad. No matter what, this would be a huge karma. One would fall into eternal damnation if he was not careful. Dao's sovereign asked, can a mere pill do what Pangu couldn't even after killing 3,000 chaotic fiend celestials? Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M the elder in the raincoat smiled. Indeed, I'm not 100% sure. But it has nothing to do with you, right? The water buffalo raised its head, as if expressing its impatience. Dao's sovereign glanced at Zhao Xianyuan and Jiang Yi. He hesitated. Can we give up? We didn't know that there was such a huge karma. We're only primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortals. You shouldn't insist on us. The elder in the raincoat smiled. Of course. However, this supreme treasure is not ordinary. After you miss it, you will never encounter it again. Don't think that the chaos is vast. Such supreme treasures are limited. Most of them are still in the hands of those mighty figures. After this is done, I will sever karma and ensure that you are safe. Zhao Xianyuan asked warily, are you going to silence us? The elder in the raincoat smiled. If I really think that, why would I tell you this secret? Could it be that you have the guts to become a primordial fiend celestial and become enemies with the entire chaos? The primordial pill can only turn you into a primordial fiend celestial, but your cultivation level will still be the same. Once you become a primordial fiend celestial, all the chaotic fiend celestials will sense it and come to kill you in short order. This is not the first time we've worked together. There's nothing I can do if you don't believe me. Dao's sovereign gritted his teeth. All right, I'll listen to you. When are we moving? The elder in the raincoat got off the water buffalo and said, don't panic. I'll cast the array formation first to prevent other mighty figures from spying on us. The water buffalo lay down and rolled on the ground. Jiang Yi looked at it with a strange expression. It looks like a dog. Bright temples floated above the clouds in a world filled with crimson light. A majestic peak stood out. It also stood above the clouds, but it emitted a golden light. At the top of the mountain was a Buddhist palace with the words Thunderclap Monastery carved on the plaque. Figures appeared in front of the monastery. The leader was Zhou Fan. Han Yu's grand disciple Qin Ling followed behind him and looked around curiously. Thunderclap Monastery opened, and the group stepped into the hall. What greeted them were Buddhas sitting on lotus thrones and floating in the air. At the front was a huge Buddha that was tens of thousands of feet tall and peerlessly majestic. Chu Shuren could be seen upon a careful look. Chu Shuren had already put on his kasaya. He had a benevolent expression and holy temperament. Zhou Fan smiled. Not bad. You're even more Buddhist than the Buddhist sect. Chu Shuren also smiled. I'm originally the Supreme Buddha. It's only right for me to create another Buddhist sect. Zhou Fan sized up the surrounding Buddhas and said, It looks good, but your Buddhist sect still lacks a cornerstone. It's not strong enough. The Buddhas were furious. Chu Shuren said, The Buddha world has only developed for a short period of time. It can't compare to your great Tao Tower. Zhou Fan smiled. I'll give you a batch of cultivators in the future. You can choose from the great Tao Tower's prison if you are worried. Chu Shuren smiled and nodded. Only the relationship of fellow disciples allowed them to joke without restraint. Zhou Fan said, Back to the topic. Why did you call me here? You didn't ask me to see your results, right? Chu Shuren said helplessly. How can that be? To be honest, recently, the Buddhist world has been targeted by a mysterious force. The other party has at least 3 primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortals, and even a freedom mighty figure. They're forcing the Buddhist world to submit to them. In the future, we will pay tribute to them and erect their statues to spread their reputation. Otherwise, they will flatten the Buddhist world. Helpless, I can only look for you, Uncle Master. Uncle Master? The angry Buddhas were stunned. The dissatisfaction in their hearts vanished. No wonder the other party spoke so arrogantly and did not show mercy. They were family. Tell me in detail. I'll definitely help you in this matter. I'll flatten them no matter how strong they are. Zhou Fan said heroically and unquestionably. Qin Ling looked excited. Another battle was about to begin. Chu Shuren did not hide anything and began to tell them one by one. In the darkness, a bright crack suddenly appeared. A figure tore it apart and stepped out. It was Hanju, or rather his clone. He focused his gaze forward. In the depths of the darkness was a ball of light that looked like the sun. It emitted a vast aura. It was the Grand Primordium Domain. Hanju took a deep breath and flew forward. At this moment, a figure flew over from the side. It was a woman. This woman wore a purple dress and had a dignified posture. Her hair was tied up under a crown. She was considered beautiful. Fellow Taoist. The purple dress woman's voice floated over. Hanju stopped. He couldn't see through the purple-dressed woman's cultivation. She probably had a supreme treasure on her. The purple-dressed woman sized him up and smiled. I didn't expect there to be such a good-looking person like you among the fiend celestials. Hanju said. The appearance is only an illusion. With our cultivation levels, we can look whatever we want. The purple-dressed woman covered her mouth and laughed. Although that's the case, their aesthetic taste is different. Most fiend celestials have different aesthetic tastes than us. I'm the chaotic fiend celestial Red Fate. Hanju replied. I'm the chaotic fiend celestial Hanju. This introduction was really awkward. Red Fate smiled. Fellow Taoist Han is also a clone. It seems that you are as wary of the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial as me. Why don't we go to the Grand Primordium Domain together? I've heard of fellow Taoist Han's reputation. You're a new chaotic fiend celestial. You're probably not familiar with the other chaotic fiend celestials. I can introduce you to them. Hanju hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. Since the other party could tell that he was a clone, she shouldn't harm him, because that would only offend him, and not kill him. The two of them flew towards the Grand Primordium Domain. During this time, Hanju saw several figures quickly flying into the Grand Primordium Domain, not disturbing each other. It seemed that most chaotic fiend celestials were very cautious. Red Fate smiled and said, Speaking of which, I have to thank fellow Taoist Han. I hate that despair Tao spirit so much. Hanju asked. Were you also bullied when you attained the great Tao? That's right. He forced me to kneel and swear allegiance. Sigh, I also wanted to take revenge in the past. However, after attaining the great Tao, I felt that it was better to let bygones be bygones. Speaking of which, it's strange. As our cultivation levels increase, we become more and more afraid. We also constantly lose our courage. Therefore, I admire fellow Taoist Han very much. Red Fate's words were filled with flattery, making Hanju even more vigilant. Chapter 774 New and Ancient, Taoist Destiny. Chapter 774 New and Ancient. Taoist Destiny. Red Fate finally stopped flattering him after entering the Grand Primordium domain. Hanju secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had thought that the chaotic fiend celestials were all arrogant and bloodthirsty. He didn't expect there to be an existence like Red Fate. Red Fate was not like a chaotic fiend celestial, but more like a human. The Grand Primordium domain was wrapped in a layer of fire. The interior was extremely vast, not the least inferior to the immortal world. The blue sky, white clouds, green mountains, and rivers formed a world of their own. However, Hanju didn't sense the aura of living beings. The two of them flew all the way and soon arrived at a huge palace that towered into the clouds. The door alone was 1,000,000 feet tall. There were 2 huge cauldrons in front of the door, each with a stick of incense. Sand smoke filled the air and transformed into clouds that enveloped the entire world. A giant stood in front of the door. He wore bronze-heavy armor, and his true appearance could not be seen. He said, "Fiend Celestials, please enter the hall. Master is already waiting inside." Hanju and Red Fate entered the hall. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M. Hanju felt a powerful aura, and secretly felt pity. How good would it be if his clone could also use the simulation trial to detect the vicinity? The hall was blank. The space was filled with white light, as if it was an independent space. There were meditation cushions in front of him, each 10,000 feet away. They were all facing the same direction. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial wore a black robe. Its head was like black flames, and its true appearance could not be seen. It was mysterious and terrifying. More than 20 chaotic fiend celestials were already sitting down. Hanju and Red Fate looked at each other and sat down on neighboring mats. This is fellow Taoist Hanju from the Heavenly Tao. The younger generation is truly impressive. He killed the Despair Tao spirit and defeated the Divine Robe Taoist. 14 great Tao sages died to him. He has fought for us chaotic fiend celestials. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial suddenly looked at Hanju and said. With that said, Hanju felt many sage senses sweep over him. Hanju replied politely, I had no choice. Compared to you, I'm still far inferior. He did not deny it. Keeping a low profile would only make him look hypocritical. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial sighed. Back then, the 3,000 Fiend Celestials stood in the chaos. What a grand occasion. The chaotic races trembled in fear and despair at our birth. Unfortunately, Pangu was heartless and slaughtered his own kind to attain the Tao. I still feel hatred when I think of it now. Fellow Taoist Han, you have to control the heavenly Tao well. Don't let Pangu have the opportunity to revive. The other Fiend Celestials sighed. Most of them had ancient voices, and were probably chaotic Fiend Celestials who had survived the Pangu calamity. Seeing that they were chatting, Hanju didn't reply and listened quietly. He wasn't a true chaotic Fiend Celestial, and would not befriend these people. He was here to hear what these Fiend Celestials wanted to do to him. Red Fate sent a voice transmission to Hanju. The chaotic Fiend Celestials are divided into ancient and new. The ones speaking now are all ancient beings. You and I can just listen to the newcomers. If our cultivation levels are inferior to theirs, it will be very difficult for us to make decisions. Hanju replied, I understand. The chaotic Fiend Celestials of the ancient group talked about the past, like big shots reminiscing about the past. How pretentious. From the looks of it, he still had to wait for a while. Hanju was also curious about how many chaotic Fiend Celestials were hidden in the current chaos. Several days later, the foolish sword sage also arrived. He was not surprised to see Hanju. Instead, he found a mat close to him and sat down. He started to chat with Hanju with a voice transmission. This fellow was very excited. He said that after his battle with Hanju ended, he returned to comprehend the sword Dao, and his strength increased again. He wouldn't be in such a sorry state if he faced Hanju again. However, he knew his limits and didn't challenge him again. The foolish sword sage finally fell silent after chatting for half a day. He also belonged to the ancient group, but he did not participate in the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestials conversation. Perhaps it was Hanju's imagination, but the Fiend Celestials seemed to reject the foolish sword sage. Fellow Taoist, do you know Sage Fated Secrets? A voice suddenly floated into his ears. Hanju glanced over. A gray-robed old Taoist was staring at him. Hanju replied, I've heard of him, but I don't know him. He had already died when I attained the Tao. The gray-robed old Taoist sent a voice transmission. That's true. My useless disciple was defeated by the Dark Forbidden Lord and abandoned by the Heavenly Tao sages. Disciple? Hanju was secretly surprised. Taoist destiny. Hanju remembered. In the past, he had deduced that Taoist destiny and Nuwa were plotting something. However, after Sage Fated Secrets died, Taoist destiny had never appeared again. Hanju replied, My condolences. The current Heavenly Tao is no longer the original Heavenly Tao. Your disciple is not the only sage who died. That's true. I don't blame you. I just want to befriend you. I'm very curious about you. It's naturally a good thing to have another friend. That's right. The two of them began to exchange pleasantries. Taoist destiny has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 2 stars. Hanju didn't mind. It was all an act. However, Taoist destiny was sincere. Hanju had such a valiant battle record that people would think that he was not to be trifled with. However, Hanju appeared kind. This magnanimity made Taoist destiny feel very comfortable. In the following years, Fiend Celestials arrived one after another. More than 300 years passed. The Grand Primordium Hall finally closed. Hanju counted. There were a total of 67 chaotic Fiend Celestials, more than he had imagined. However, most of them were only at the Freedom Realm. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestials stopped chatting and soon, the Grand Primordium Hall quietened down. After a long while, the Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial opened his eyes and said, Everyone, we have gathered for the Primordial Fiend Celestial this time. Although there is a prophecy that the Primordial Fiend Celestial has yet to be born, this matter has already endangered us chaotic Fiend Celestials. It's not impossible if a great Tao Divine Spirit, Eternal Divine Spirit, chaotic life form, and the others use the Primordial Fiend Celestial to eliminate us. The atmosphere in the hall fell silent. Hanju was secretly curious. Who spread the prophecy? He had to calculate when he returned. The ancient Fiend Celestial spoke again, and began to discuss where the Primordial Fiend Celestial might be born, and who could harm them. Hanju would answer when it involved the Heavenly Tao. Everything was fine as long as it didn't involve sovereignty. This conversation was very long, and would probably last for a long time. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. He entered seclusion for another 10,000 years, but his clone had yet to return. Without his clone returning, Hanju felt uneasy and found it difficult to calm down and cultivate in peace. After all, a group of mighty figures was plotting to kill him behind his back. It would be very difficult for them to calm down if it were anyone else. Hanju opened the emails to relax. Your good friend Jing Tiangong has become life. His providence has transformed. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Li Daokong has comprehended the sword Dao, and has received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du obtained a supreme treasure by chance. His providence has increased greatly. Your disciple Dao Sovereign was swept into the chaos of spacetime. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan was involved in the chaos of spacetime. Your good friend Jiang, he was involved in the chaos of spacetime. Your good friend Yi Tian has awakened the power of a chaotic Fiend Celestial. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your son Han Tua sacrificed his body and surpassed his limits. His cultivation has increased greatly. Chapter 775 Forbidden Faction, Fiend Celestial Race. Chapter 775 Forbidden Faction, Fiend Celestial Race. Jing Tiangong became life. Hanju's expression became strange. This time, he could really package life as a force of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Hanju noticed that Etion had awakened the power of a chaotic fiend celestial. Etion was the son of the heavenly Tao, and was the reincarnation of a chaotic fiend celestial. In the previous battle of the heavenly court, he had a favorable impression of Hanju that was directly 6-star. Seeing that he and Han Tua were like brothers, Hanju pulled him into his circle of friends. However, he usually didn't pay too much attention to him. This time, Etion and Han Tua seemed to be in danger again. Han Tua even sacrificed his body. Bastard! His body was a gift from his parents. How could he sacrifice it just like that? Why didn't Han Tua use the invocation technique if he really encountered trouble? Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M. He should be able to resolve it. Hanju thought silently. He discovered that his friends and relatives rarely took the initiative to use the invocation technique. Even if he made it clear, they would rather crawl back and forth between life and death than alarm him. Am I too cold and giving them the illusion that I don't want to be disturbed? Hanju reflected. Forget it. He couldn't be bothered to think about it. No one cares if I die in seclusion after so long. Hanju continued reading the emails. After reading the emails, Hanju used the Dark Nightmare to visit Jing Tiangong in his dreams. He used the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. In the dream, Jing Tiangong suddenly opened his eyes. Killing intent burst out from his eyes. He was like a completely different person from before. Forbidden Lord. Jing Tiangong knelt down in surprise, his body trembling. How many years had it been? The Dark Forbidden Lord finally contacted him. Hanju asked in a hoarse voice, Jing Tiangong, have your feelings for me changed? Jing Tiangong hurriedly denied. Of course not. I will always be under you, Forbidden Lord. I can do anything you want me to. He began to express his loyalty crazily, and was terrified. He thought that he had offended the Dark Forbidden Lord by joining life. Hanju said, Then tell me about your situation. Jing Tiangong nodded, and began to talk about his experiences over the years. It had been a long time since the Dark Forbidden Lord had appeared. The immortal world had even forgotten about his existence. This made Jing Tiangong extremely unhappy. Therefore, he left the Divine Palace, and brought his trusted aides to the chaos to re-establish the Darkness sect. Later, he was found by Sherdudao, and invited into the sect. Jing Tiangong asked carefully, Is Sherdudao your? So Sherdudao was developing on his own. Hanju said, That's right, but you have to hide this. You can also help me teach Sherdudao a lesson. There are some things that you have to be cautious about. Jing Tiangong was pleasantly surprised. He also had doubts about Sherdudao, but if it was true, that would be great. He had finally found a like-minded person. And furthermore, the other party was Sherdudao. Sherdudao was once the #1 person below the heavenly Tao sages. He was publicly acknowledged to be powerful. His future was limitless now that he had attained the Tao. I understand. I will definitely advance with fellow Taoists sure in the future. Jing Tiangong patted his chest and promised excitedly. Hanju instructed him again, and then ended the dream. He opened his eyes and smiled. This was also good. Since Jing Tiangong could acknowledge Sherdudao, the foundation of the Dark Forbidden Lord was finally formed. Hanju closed his eyes and started cultivating. In the Grand Primordium Hall, the chaotic fiend celestial finally made a decision, after more than 10,000 years of discussion. Hanju was almost sleepy. Although it was called a discussion, it was actually to resolve their grudges. The chaotic fiend celestials had their own grudges. If they wanted to face a common enemy, they had to make it clear. Now they had finally reached a consensus. From today onwards, we will all send disciples to search for the primordial fiend celestial. Any prodigy who might be the primordial fiend celestial must be controlled immediately. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial said in a low voice. The Fiend Celestials agreed. In addition, chaotic Fiend Celestials are not allowed to fight each other. If discovered, whoever starts it will be expelled from the Fiend Celestial race. We will hunt them down together. in case the calamity comes and stabs us in the back. Such a thing has happened in the Pangu era. The Fiend Celestials had no objections. The Grand Primordium Fiend Celestial waved his sleeve, and the door to the Grand Primordium Hall opened. The Fiend Celestials stood up and left. Hanju also left. Although he didn't hear any important information, he remembered the names and looks of these Fiend Celestials. It would be convenient to curse them in the future, when his identity could no longer be hidden. Rather than waiting for death, it was better to kill all the enemies first. Being invincible was not only about strength, but also about methods. Just as he walked out of the Grand Primordium Hall, Red Fate caught up and smiled. Fellow Taoist Han, can we find a place to chat alone? Hanju glanced at her and said, next time. The Heavenly Tao has something on. I have to leave first. All right, I'll personally visit you in the Heavenly Tao when I have the chance. Goodbye. Hanju's clone quickly fled. Red Fate watched him leave. Her smile disappearing, the foolish sword sage walked up and snorted. I advise you not to court death. Fellow Taoist Han looks kind, but his killing intent is not small. Red Fate glanced at him and said, if I don't harm him, why would he want to kill me? Hee. The foolish sword sage shook his head and laughed. He then turned into a sword beam and left. At the same time, while his clone was still traveling, Hanju already knew everything that it had experienced. He could switch his consciousness to his clone at any time. The clone could also deal with everything independently. Unify the chaotic Fiend Celestials? Hee. How can you unite them if I curse you to death? Hanju thought to himself. But he was only thinking about it. Currently, he could use the Fiend Celestial race to intimidate the thieves. With the primordial Fiend Celestial's personality, this matter would quickly spread throughout the chaos. At that time, the chaotic mighty figures would know that Hanju had already established a connection with the Fiend Celestial race. The establishment of the Fiend Celestial race was not only to deal with the primordial Fiend Celestial, but also to unite against a common enemy. The enemy of every chaotic Fiend Celestial would be the public enemy of the entire Fiend Celestial race. This power was definitely terrifying. Even life was not enough. Every chaotic Fiend Celestial controlled a huge force. Hanju didn't think too much and continued cultivating. The 10,000-year session had not ended yet. He couldn't stop cultivating. 10,000 years was not enough. I should cultivate for a while more. Let's go for 100,000 years. In the illusory mysterious space, Han Tuo's soul floated inside. He was wrapped by faintly discernible chains. There was nothing else in the surrounding space, only a distorted space of various colors. Here, there was no hope, as if it was a land of exile. Brother, hold on for a while longer. I'll come and save you soon. Etion's voice sounded from an unknown place. Han Tuo could not speak. He was accumulating strength. If I'm like father with so many Dharma idols. Han Tuo's eyes were extremely cold. He didn't believe that he couldn't escape this endless abyss. He kept recalling the scene of Hanju, fighting a black shadow, vaguely wanted to rush out of his body. It was a Fiend Celestial Dharma idol. Han Tuo had such power ever since he was born. It was said to be a Dharma idol, but not completely. He had relied on this Fiend Celestial Dharma idol to survive many times when he encountered danger. Chapter 776, Restarting the Chaos, Devil Ancestor Lu Yuan. Chapter 776, Restarting the Chaos. Devil Ancestor Lu Yuan, a figure surrounded by raging flames, was frantically attacking space in the darkness. It was Etion. Damn it! Etion tried his best, but he still couldn't break through this dark space and find Han Tuo, who was deep in the endless abyss. He had never encountered such a hard space. His dermic powers were directly dispersed when they struck the darkness, causing his body and blood to tremble. It was extremely uncomfortable. It had been a long time since Etion felt so helpless. Han Tuo had been protecting him ever since he obtained the primordial chaos Tao fruit. He had finally awakened as a chaotic Fiend Celestial and inherited the power of the Khanate Great Tao. But he still couldn't save Han Tuo. This aggrieved feeling almost made Etion go mad. Why? Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0 why am I so weak? I who have no parents, can't even save my only brother. What's the difference between me and an ant? Etion roared angrily. He could only hold these words in his heart. A laugh sounded at this moment. Give up, young chaotic fiend celestial. It's impossible for you to break through the endless abyss. The difference in cultivation level between us is too great. This voice was filled with disdain and mockery. Etion stopped and turned around. Come out. Suppress me or kill me if you have the guts. Laughter followed. Why should I kill you? I don't want to kill him either. I want the two of you to submit to me. You can obtain potential that surpasses the chaotic fiend celestials. Etion smiled. What potential is stronger than that of the chaotic fiend celestials? The primordial fiend celestial? Are you trying to trick us into becoming the public enemy of the chaos? A white figure suddenly appeared in front of him and pointed at his forehead as soon as he finished speaking. In an instant, the flames on his body dispersed and revealed his true body. Etion's eyes widened in disbelief. The white figure was a humanoid and had a human figure. Its surface was pale like jade and wrinkle-free. It wore a stone mask without eyes. Behind the mask was long hair formed by black worms that twisted wantonly. Etion could not move. He gritted his teeth and asked, Who are you? The white figure laughed strangely. You can call me the Devil Ancestor. Devil Ancestor? Etion frowned and asked, The Devil Ancestor of the Heavenly Tao? That's only one of my Dharma idols. The 3,000 worlds of the chaos all have my Dharma idols. I helped countless worlds form rules. I'm the oldest chaotic fiend celestial. The chaos was still in its original state when I was born. There was no world or living beings. It was gray. And I felt that that was the most beautiful appearance. The Devil Ancestor smiled teasingly. As Etion shivered. What did this fellow mean? Did he want to destroy everything and make the chaos return to its original state? The Devil Ancestor said. Actually, I think very highly of the two of you. That's why I spent time dealing with you. Submit to me. I will establish a new order and stand above everything. I will be the only God, and you will be second only to me. Etion was silent. The Devil Ancestor spoke patiently. What can you obtain by fighting for the evil Heavenly Emperor? Back then, when the evil Heavenly Emperor was still in the Heavenly Tao, he also asked my Dharma idol for help. He begged me to let the devil race sweep through the mortal world and slaughter all living beings every time they lost their faith in the immortals, giving the immortals a chance to be the saviors. What are you pursuing when you fight for such a person? Etion was moved. He didn't expect the evil Heavenly Emperor to have done this before. I want the chaos to restart, just like how the Heavenly Tao restarted. Only by cleansing can we be reborn. The current Heavenly Tao is close to perfection, but it's still a little short of true peace. It's mainly because your brother's father isn't determined enough and still relies on those sages to establish order. The Devil Ancestor's tone became regretful when he mentioned Hanju. Etion gritted his teeth. Won't we help you kill the people around us if we follow you? The restarting of the chaos meant slaughtering all living beings in the chaos. The Devil Ancestor smiled. Since you're on our side, I'll definitely take care of you. I'll protect the people you care about. You have no room to refuse. Either submit to me or die. Etion was furious, but he was helpless. He asked, Why did you choose us? The Devil Ancestor smiled. Because you are special. Your brother seems to be a chaotic fiend celestial, but he doesn't have his own great Tao. He's clearly not a chaotic fiend celestial. As for you, the Heavenly Tao chose you to become the son of the Heavenly Tao. It's very strange. Perhaps Panga's will is secretly manipulating everything. I need you to be my pawn. One day, I will face Pangu and the Tao Ancestor. Only by killing them can I restart the chaos. Etion was silent. The Devil Ancestor smiled. There's not much time left. My patience is about to run out. Etion took a deep breath and said, All right. As long as you're willing to let my brother go. The Devil Ancestor's mask began to twist as a strange smile appeared on the stone surface. You won't regret it. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes. He had been in seclusion for 80,000 years. Indeed, after reaching 1,000,000 years old, the choice reward would not be triggered every 100,000 years. It would probably only be triggered once every 1,000,000 years. Fortunately, Hanju was already strong enough and didn't have much desire for the system reward. He wanted to continue cultivating. However, he had been feeling uneasy recently. He pinched his fingers to deduce, but he couldn't figure out where this feeling came from. Strange. He was a great Tao sage. Everything was in his control, unless it involved an existence stronger than him. Hanju checked the emails. Perhaps he could find an answer from his friends. Your good friend Tao Sovereign has obtained a supreme treasure. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by your son Han Tua and was severely injured. Your good friend Etion was attacked by an immortal god, X78920. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by your son Han Tua and was severely injured. Your good friend Qin Ling was attacked by your good friend Etion and was severely injured. Your good friend Taoist Destiny discussed the Tao with a mysterious mighty figure. Your disciple Ji Xianshan accidentally entered the chaotic mystic realm. His providence has increased. What was going on with Han Tua and Etion? Hanju checked their portraits and discovered that their cultivation levels had already reached the late-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. So fast. However, he couldn't severely injure the evil heavenly emperor and Zhou Fan, even if he was at the late-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Hanju narrowed his eyes. A word appeared in their providence information. Inheritor of the devil ancestor. Devil ancestor? Hanju immediately used the derivation function. I want to know who the devil ancestor who gave Han Tua and Etion the inheritance is? 400 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Devil ancestor Lu Yuan. Mid-stage great Tao supreme realm. Tao ancestor's devil heart, myriad devil ancestor. One of the ancient chaotic fiend celestials. Hanju frowned. Great Tao supreme realm. Where did he come from? I want to know my chances of winning against the devil ancestor Lu Yuan. 400 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. You have a 60% chance of killing the devil ancestor Lu Yuan. Hanju frowned. It's too dangerous. He couldn't attack. He could only use the Book of Misfortune. Chapter 777 Meaning of Cultivation. Chapter 777 Meaning of Cultivation. Let's understand the situation first. Hanju frowned and thought. What if Lu Yuan was Han Tuo's master? Wouldn't he curse his own ally to death? Hanju sent a dream to Han Tua next. The dream was a beautiful place with mountains and rivers. Hanju discovered that Han Tua had changed. Apart from his body being stronger, his face was a little weathered. His white hair was tied behind his head by a blood tendon, and only 2 thin strands of hair were left on his forehead. It seemed that Han Tua had also suffered a lot over the years. Hanju wanted to ask him why he wanted to severely injure the evil heavenly emperor, but his heart softened when he saw him like this. He must have had a reason. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M Han Tua suddenly opened his eyes. After seeing Hanju, he was stunned and hurriedly stood up to bow. However, he was no longer as excited as before and looked very calm. He had indeed grown up. Hanju asked, "How have you been?" Han Tua hesitated for a moment, but still told him the truth. From being trapped in the endless abyss to being subdued by the devil ancestor Lu Yuan, and recently following him to explore the chaos. They were trying to help the devil ancestor recover his main body. Hanju narrowed his eyes and asked, "This devil ancestor has yet to recover his main body?" Han Tua nodded. His body was destroyed by Pangu, and his soul was suppressed in the ancient desolate by the Tao ancestor for countless years. He needs time to recover. He hesitated, his eyes worried. Hanju asked, "What are you trying to say?" Han Tua took a deep breath and said, "I injured the evil heavenly emperor not because I attacked him. It's just that he and Zhou Fan want to save me and Etion. I've let his majesty down, but I want to try something with the devil ancestor. I hope that father can forgive me." He knew Hanju's relationship with the evil heavenly emperor, so he was worried. Hanju asked, "Why do you want to follow the devil ancestor?" Han Tua looked up at him with a firm gaze and said, "I want to find the meaning of my existence. I've been following his majesty and fighting and killing countless people. Although the heavenly court has been strengthening, I can't find my own meaning. I might be able to find it if I follow the devil ancestor. Hanju was speechless. Looking for meaning? Did he have nothing better to do? Survival was the greatest meaning. However, Hanju couldn't criticize him directly when he saw Han Tuo's gaze. Everyone had their own ambitions. Hanju's previous path was not understood by others. The people around him thought that he was timid and afraid of trouble. He used his strength to prove that he was right. At least, Hanju was very firm at the beginning. Han Tuo had experienced all sorts of things in life. He had experienced all the emotions and desires. He had also experienced the extreme sense of achievement and the sense of failure that almost caused him to collapse. At his realm, it was already very difficult for him to encounter enemies. It was indeed easy to be confused. Hanju asked, "Then, can you tell me why the devil ancestor wants you?" Han Tuo did not hide anything. Hanju didn't panic, knowing that the devil ancestor actually wanted to restart the chaos. Instead, he was a little teasing. Life, the fiend celestial race, the devil ancestor, the great Tao divine spirit, and so on. More and more major factions began to integrate and appear. To Hanju, it was a good thing. The more chaotic it was, the harder it was for his identity to be exposed. The fact that Han Tuo could tell him the devil ancestor's intentions meant that the devil ancestor did not use any method to brainwash him. Otherwise, he would definitely keep it a secret. Have you really thought about it? This path will be very difficult, and you will encounter many troubles, Hanju asked. Han Tuo said with a firm expression. At first, I refused. Later, the devil ancestor let me see many things, so I decided to follow him. If the devil ancestor really has cultivation that can overturn everything, I will ask him to protect the hidden sect. If the devil ancestor fails, I will sever my relationship with you and not cause trouble. This was indeed an investment. No matter what, Hanju didn't lose out. Han Tuo had lost too many people in his life. Hanju was the only one left, and he was too powerful. He had no ability to repay Hanju at all. Instead of that, it was better to follow the devil ancestor and fight for a chance of survival for him. Hanju was silent. He could sense Han Tuo's true feelings. This kid is underestimating me. Han Tuo lowered his head slightly and said softly, "Although you've been protecting me, you actually don't have any expectations of me." Hanju said, "Why would I save you if I have no expectations?" Han Tuo said, "It's only because I'm your son. The expectations I said have nothing to do with kinship. Just like you protected so many people and always cultivated diligently. Isn't that just not trusting anyone but yourself? In your heart, you never expect others to save you. You only believe that you can protect yourself." Hanju fell silent again. It had to be said that this kid had seen through him. Hanju indeed didn't expect much from anyone. He nurtured the fiend celestial army, only hoping for it to help him reduce trouble in the future. He never expected the hidden sect and the fiend celestial army to save him when he was in danger. It was because he would never let himself fall into a desperate situation. This was also the reason why he was still in seclusion despite being so powerful. "Let me try, father." Han Tuo stared at him and said word by word. The two of them indeed looked like father and son, but Han Tuo looked to be the older one. Hanju said, "All right, I respect your choice. However, I won't show mercy to the devil ancestor if he dares to threaten me. I hope that you won't plead for mercy for him." Han Tuo said helplessly, "Why would I plead for him? I'm only doing it for myself. I don't have a good impression of him." Hanju removed the dream. "Summon me at any time if you encounter a death situation." On a barren land, the bright starry sky looked up. Han Tuo sat on the hill and opened his eyes. He was both touched and bitter. "You still think that I can't?" A cold wind blew past, and his white hair fluttered. Etienne suddenly walked over. Like Han Tuo, his image had changed. He was dressed in sinister black armor, and his black hair reached his heels. His face was wild, and even if he didn't speak, it made people feel that he was arrogant. "What are you thinking? The devil ancestor is probably about to finish. That fellow is really disgusting. He ate the corpse of an ancient chaotic fiend celestial raw," said Etienne as he sat beside him. Han Tua asked. Etian, have you thought about why you cultivate? What is the purpose of your life? Etian was stunned. Then he smiled. Of course. I want to become the strongest existence, just like the great sage equaling heaven you mentioned. Han Tua said faintly. The great sage equaling heaven became the victorious fighting Buddha in the end. Etian smiled confidently. That's because he failed. If he succeeded, even Tathagata would have to kneel in front of him. Han Tua looked at his smile and was lost in thought. Etian seemed to be always so optimistic and heartless. Etian sensed his emotions and patted his shoulder. He smiled and said, Don't think about this all day. You still have a father to rely on. Do you know that you won't die no matter what? So you want to find trouble for yourself? Han Tua scolded him jokingly. What do you know? I'm thinking. Thinking. Do you understand? Etian grinned. You won't even have the energy to think when I surpass you and step on you. You can only think about how to surpass me. Chapter 778 Devil Ancestors Identity, Space Origin. Chapter 778 Devil Ancestors Identity. Space Origin. Any existence with intelligence would always encounter a moment of confusion. Hanju knew this very well. He was often confused. For example, now, he only had a 60% chance of winning against the Devil Ancestor. Most importantly, the other party was still recovering his strength. This was not good. Hanju had no choice but to take out the Book of Misfortune and the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and start to fuse them. Then, he sent a dream to the evil Heavenly Emperor. The dream was still the forest outside the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The evil Heavenly Emperor opened his eyes and looked ashamed when he saw him. He was the first to speak. Sorry, I didn't protect your son well. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M. Hanju smiled. I should be the one apologizing to you. This kid is not in his right mind. He hurt you. Don't blame him. The evil Heavenly Emperor shook his head. How can I blame him? He has already contributed enough to the Heavenly Court. I won't stop him if he really wants to leave. Besides, the one who injured me was actually not him. It was mainly the power of the Devil Ancestor, who injured me through his body. He was also very panicked and blamed himself. I can tell. The evil Heavenly Emperor sighed as he mentioned this. Actually, he had already experienced such a situation. Humans strive for greater heights. He had sent many geniuses to Sage Sex, so he was not affected. Hanju asked, Why didn't you summon me back then? The evil Heavenly Emperor replied, This Devil Ancestor is not simple. He's ancient. He once followed Pangu for an era, and later became the Tao Ancestor's mental demon. Although he was severed by the Tao Ancestor, he has already established an inseparable connection with him. He won't die if the Tao Ancestor doesn't die. I don't want you to provoke such an existence. Hanju frowned. So exaggerated? The Tao Ancestor was one of the final bosses. He was not easy to deal with. The evil Heavenly Emperor said. Han Tua can indeed become stronger by following the Devil Ancestor. I'll let him go since he's determined. Although his tone was a little regretful, it was also filled with anticipation. Oh, you seem to have a high opinion of the Devil Ancestor? Hanju asked. The evil Heavenly Emperor said, That's right. The Devil Ancestor would have been the Tao creator if he had won the battle between the Tao and Devil after the creation of the world. The current Heavenly Tao might not be worse than it is now. This Devil Ancestor has always had a great wish in his heart. It's not just to become stronger. He also has a desire for peace. Before Pangu created the world, not all the 3,000 fiend celestials in the chaos liked to fight. This Devil Ancestor was one of the existences who hated fighting, but he had no choice. Hanju remained silent. It sounded like another sad story. The evil Heavenly Emperor smiled. There's no need to care about the Devil Ancestor for the time being. Someone will deal with him. As for Tuor, I feel that he has great providence. Not only him, but also Etian. They fell in danger many times, but the two of them always relied on each other to survive. In my understanding, those who can constantly escape death and become stronger are all people with great providence. Furthermore, I have a feeling that Tuor and Etian will shock the entire chaos in the future. They might not be inferior to you. Hanju chuckled. Really? He suddenly understood why Han Tuo was aggrieved. On one side was the evil heavenly emperor who was cheering him on, and on the other was a father like him. Ha ha ha. Won't you, his father, also benefit from it if Tuor becomes stronger? By the way, don't you have another son? You can leave him to me if you don't want to bring him along. The evil heavenly emperor looked expectant. He was looking forward to Hanju's mysterious youngest son. He could actually resonate with Han Tuo's bloodline. At least, his talent was above Han Tuo's. Hanju said angrily. Why do you keep staring at my son? That kid's potential is not good. He can't compare to Han Tuo at all. Furthermore, his mother brings him around all day and can't bear to separate from him. Is that so? Unfortunately, I think his potential is definitely good. It's just that he hasn't been discovered. I'll send him to you to help you expand your territory if I have the chance in the future. You sound like I'm taking advantage of you. No. The Heavenly Emperor is impartial. How can I dare to think that? Brat, have you forgotten how respectful you used to be in front of me? Are you not giving me face now? How can this be? The two of them began to bicker, the smiles on their faces not disappearing. Hanju opened his eyes. He gave up the thought of settling scores with the devil ancestor after chatting with the evil Heavenly Emperor. He would let him go for a while. Hanju was about to close his eyes and cultivate when he suddenly felt a strange fluctuation. He suddenly glanced over. His gaze passed through the buildings and landed on the fusang tree. He saw the space around the fusang tree twisting violently. Hanju immediately came to the fusang tree. He was about to take action when the fusang tree suddenly disappeared. The tens of thousands of feet tall fusang tree suddenly disappeared, causing a huge visual impact. The Dao field guards on the triada, Xiao Air, and the Black Hell Chicken landed one after another, all looking stunned. At the same time, the uneasiness in Hanju's heart disappeared. He was enlightened. It turned out that his uneasiness was not because of Han Tuo, but because of the fusang tree. He used the simulation trial to check his surroundings and did not discover any mysterious enemy. He didn't dare to pursue rashly. How terrifying would it be to pass through the Dao field array formation if a mysterious mighty figure really attacked? Hanju disappeared after saying, "Continue cultivating. Pretend that nothing happened." He returned to the Taoist temple and began to deduce. Soon he caught sight of the fusang tree. After all, the fusang tree was far weaker than him. Hanju didn't even need to use the derivation function and could deduce it himself. However, Hanju didn't expect the fusang tree to be so far from the heavenly Tao. It was even further than the grand primordium domain. The fusang tree appeared in a dark space filled with rolling chaotic qi. There were no living beings around. Its branches began to tremble. The leaves kept leaving and turned into dust, forming little stars that lit up the surroundings. Hanju didn't deduce any other existence. Could it be that the fusang tree wanted to leave? But how could it be so capable? Who helped the fusang tree escape the 100-peak immortal river? 1 quadrillion years will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Tao Creator? Continue. Hanju's heart sank. Space origin. The fusang tree wants to transform strongly and has touched the space origin. Under its will, the fusang tree came to the primordial zone of chaos and is preparing to transform into all things. It wants to use the great Tao merit to transform. Hanju's expression turned complicated when he saw this message. The fusang tree had indeed mentioned that it wanted to transform a long time ago, but it was a primordial divine tree and was restricted by special rules. Even Hanju, the great Tao sage, could not help it forcefully transform. He had suggested that the fusang tree give up its body, but it did not immediately agree. Hanju wanted to ask the fusang tree, but he didn't know what to ask. The current Tao field no longer needed the fusang tree to provide spirit qi. Since he couldn't help it, why not let it pursue its own path? Hanju retracted his gaze and sighed. He was not sad. Han Tuo fusang tree, Tao sovereign Zhou Fan, and the others began to take charge and had their own paths to pursue. They were no longer weaklings who needed his protection. In that case, I have expectations for you. I look forward to whether you can surprise me in the future. However, It's impossible for you to surpass me, Hanju muttered to himself with a firm gaze. Chapter 779 Eternal Divine Clan, Challenging a Sage. Chapter 779 Eternal Divine Clan. Challenging a Sage. The Fusang tree's disappearance caused a commotion in the 100-peak Immortal River. But Hanju didn't say anything. Soon the disciples stopped talking about this. They thought that the Fusang tree's disappearance was his doing. Hanju entered his cultivation state. Years passed. Time passed quickly. 50,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju opened his eyes and slowly stood up. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du sent a voice transmission to him several hundred years ago, telling him to go to the Universal Hall after his seclusion ended. Hanju jumped into the Universal Hall. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du opened his eyes and sent a voice transmission to the other sages. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M sitting beside him. Hanju chuckled and said, "Your cultivation level has increased quite a bit recently." Heavenly Venerate Xian Du smiled. "It's all thanks to the providence of the Heavenly Tao. Not only me, but the other sages have also improved." Before the Heavenly Tao restarted, the cultivation levels of the sages might not increase, even after tens of billions of years. Soon the other sages arrived. There was another new sage in the Heavenly Tao. He was the famous Divine Might Buddha, hailing from the Buddhist sect. The Buddhist sect already had 3 sages. Qiu Shilai began to exert his strength. The other sages had nothing to say about this. The Divine Might Buddha was indeed powerful. Be it cultivation, providence, or reputation, he was unique in the current immortal world. It was really unreasonable that even he couldn't attain the Tao. Hanju had heard of the Divine Might Buddha before, but this was the first time he saw him in person. The Divine Might Buddha was actually thought to be the disciple of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage, ever since the name of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage spread. The Divine Might Buddha did not deny it. He had already learned of the Buddhist sect's stance from Qiu Shilai. After all the sages sat down, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "Let's talk about the previous alliance between the 100 worlds. We have already reached a preliminary agreement. In the future, we will advance and retreat together. The Heavenly Tao is one of the main alliance masters." Hanju was not interested in socializing, so he checked the emails. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren spread the Buddhist teachings, and the great Tao of Buddha strengthened. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by your good friend Di Jiang, and was severely injured. Your good friend Di Juan discussed the Tao with the mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased. Your good friend Qin Ling has fused with the providence of the Heavenly Tao, and learned a Heavenly Tao mystical power. Your good friend Heavenly Calamity Emperor was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Taoist Destiny observed the chaotic river of destiny, and comprehended the Tao of destiny. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian has comprehended the great Tao of karma, and his cultivation has increased. Your son Han Tuo received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure, and learned a great Tao mystical power. Your good friend Etian received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure, and learned a great Tao mystical power. His circle of friends became more and more interesting. Amazing! This also showed that the situation in the chaos was changing. Hanju suddenly frowned. Would the great Tao immeasurable calamity be brought forward? It was not to the extent that as long as the primordial fiend celestial did not appear, the great Tao immeasurable calamity would not begin. At most, there would be a few ordinary calamities in advance. Hanju saw that Han Tua and Etian had both learned a great Tao mystical power. It seemed that the devil ancestor Lu Yuan was still something, and taught the 2 juniors seriously. He continued reading the emails. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du had also finished talking about the alliance with other worlds. This matter was considered a great contribution, and had a beneficial effect on the development of the Heavenly Tao in the chaos. This matter was completely led by Heavenly Venerate Xian Du, so it proved his wisdom and ability. The new sages were filled with reverence for him, as expected of a mighty figure, who was on par with the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du continued, "Recently 2 powerful factions have appeared in the chaos. One is the devil ancestor who escaped from the ancient desolate. He's wantonly recruiting troops and buying horses. His targets are mainly young geniuses. We need to be wary of this matter. The second is the Eternal Divine Clan. The Eternal Divine Clan is made up of eternal deities. The so-called eternal deities are a type of transcendent deity. Although they don't grasp the rules like the great Tao deities, they are still extremely powerful. As the name implies, eternal deities are eternal existences. Every eternal deity is an existence that can't be killed. The sages glanced at Emperor Shao when the devil ancestor was mentioned. Emperor Shao was expressionless, as if the matter had nothing to do with him. Hanju was interested in the eternal deities. He remembered that Dijuan was an eternal deity. Could it be that Dijuan could not be killed? How do I kill an eternal deity? Hanju asked in his mind. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Kill his true body and the eternal Tao fruit. Eternal Tao fruit. The so-called Tao fruit was more like the rules of chaos, just like the primordial chaos Tao fruit of the sage realm. The Tao fruit was a product of condensed dermic powers, and was engraved with a mystical power. If one wanted to attain the Tao, they had to let the Tao fruit comprehend the great Tao and transform into the primordial chaos. The eternal Tao fruit represented the eternal rule? How were rules different from the great Tao? Hanju didn't continue to use the derivation function. He could seek answers to these questions in his cultivation. There was no need to waste his lifespan. The sages began to discuss how to prevent the approach of the two powerful factions. The Eternal Divine Clan could be ignored for the time being, as they were far from the heavenly Tao. But the devil ancestor was different. There were countless devils and fiendish cultivators in the heavenly Tao. Emperor Shao said, I will unite the demonic path, and not give the devil ancestor a chance. Qiu Shilai said in a strange tone, I wonder if fellow Taoist Shao is still related to the devil ancestor? Emperor Shao snorted, I would have left long ago during the heavenly Tao calamity if so. Why would I guard the heavenly Tao so bitterly? The other sages felt that it made sense. Almost all the older generation of sages had severed ties with their backgrounds. Although they later became friends again, they no longer followed the orders of those great Tao sages. They belonged to the heavenly Tao now. Continue to follow the cultivation spirit of fighting for the heavenly Tao. This is the best way. Some geniuses will definitely be poached. What we can guarantee is that most of the geniuses care about the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Wufa said. The other sages spoke. Hanju didn't interrupt. He was not interested in these things. He couldn't be bothered to interfere, and believed that the sages could handle it well. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du had especially called him. There was probably something important later. Just as the sages were discussing, an extremely loud voice came from outside the hall. I am a descendant of Pangu Xia Jizuan. Today, I am here to challenge a sage. The sages had strange expressions. Hanju was amused. There was such a good show. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du asked, whose disciple is Xia Jizuan? Zhang Guxing said awkwardly. He's a prodigy of the divine palace. His potential is extremely high, and he's also considered top-notch in the divine palace. He has become arrogant, and he doesn't care about anyone ever since he fought countless battles and became invincible in the divine palace. He feels that he can surpass his ancestor Pangu. Surpass Pangu? The sages revealed looks of disdain. Heavenly Venerate Wufa said, kill him lest he becomes a disaster in the future. Zhang Guxing hurriedly said, although this child is arrogant, there's no reason to kill. He only wants to test the power of a sage. There's no need to kill him directly. Besides, he will also be a great combatant of the heavenly Tao after he grows up. Su Dudao said in a strange tone, we have to punish him if we don't kill him. Otherwise, where will our dignity as sages go? Today there's Xia Jizuan, and in the future, there's Chen Jizuan, Kong Jizuan and Tang Jizuan. Isn't this absurd? Chapter 780 Preparation for the Immeasurable Calamity. Chapter 780 Preparation for the Immeasurable Calamity. That's right. He has to be punished for challenging the sage's authority. Let him reincarnate and cultivate again. Too ruthless. It's not easy to nurture a prodigy. The heavenly Tao still lacks prodigies? The key is whether we should attack. Won't we be bullying the weak? The sages began to discuss Xia Zhizuan. Speechless, Hanju said, "Don't lose the big picture for a small matter. Let's see what he does next before making a decision." In his opinion, this was a small matter. There was no need to become the focus of discussion among the sages. The sages smiled awkwardly and continued discussing the previous matter. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M at the same time, outside the hall. A white-robed man stood in the void. He had a handsome face and an imposing appearance. His every move emitted the aura of an expert. Xia Zhizuan, the #1 prodigy of the Divine Palace. He believed that he was also the #1 prodigy of the Heavenly Tao. He had dominated the immortal world and challenged experts everywhere ever since he had become a Zenith Heaven cultivator. He had never been defeated, and his cultivation level had always been increasing. 100,000 years ago, he had even gone to the chaos to wander. He had yet to encounter any opponents at the same realm. He suddenly wanted to challenge a sage. However, in the vast chaos, it was extremely difficult to encounter a sage. He could only return to the Heavenly Tao, and at least know that the sages were outside the 33rd heaven. "Why are you ignoring me?" Xia Zhizuan frowned. He also knew that his cultivation was a little low, but he really couldn't restrain his desire to challenge a sage. He was in a dilemma. Disciples were cultivating in the various sage Tao fields outside the 33rd heaven. They were all experts in the immortal world. Wouldn't he be embarrassing himself and make all living beings laugh at him if he left like this? Wouldn't he offend the sages if he barged into the sage Tao field? He was no match for a group of sages no matter how powerful he was. Xia Zhizuan felt some regret. He could only force himself to continue waiting. Several hours later, the sages discussed how to consolidate the loyalty of the geniuses to the Heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at Hanju and said, "The Heavenly Tao has been restarted for 1,000,000 years. The first calamity should be coming. Qin Ling, who should have stirred up the calamity, is not in the Heavenly Tao. Unlike before the Heavenly Tao restarted, the current calamity was mainly to let all living beings vent. Although it was peaceful now, many cultivators used the rules of peace to bully the weak. It was very difficult to achieve true peace." Hanju asked, "What form will the calamity take?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "I've thought about it repeatedly. It's not a good thing to directly start a war. Then the rules of the calamity should die with the old Heavenly Tao. I plan to focus on the human race, the Divine Palace, and the Buddhist sect, and let Qin Ling reincarnate as a mortal. Because he suffered when he was young, his clansmen were accidentally killed by the Buddhist disciples when they were subduing demons. With such a background, he joined the Divine Palace by chance and became a prodigy. In order to take revenge, Qin Ling wants to overthrow the Buddhist sect. During this period, the other sage sects and races can join. They can either support Qin Ling or the Buddhist sect. The Buddhist sect also wants to maintain the rules of peace. After a huge battle, the son of the Buddhist sect's immeasurable calamity died. He made a great wish and aroused the pity of all living beings. He firmly determined the Heavenly Tao to be peaceful. Qin Ling comprehended the Tao, and his Tao heart was clear. He suddenly realized that he had made a serious mistake and converted to the Buddhist sect to promote the Buddhist philosophy of peace in the future. This script was not bad. Hanju was satisfied. It was equivalent to giving Qin Ling fame. The Buddhist sect might be despised in the early stages, but it would be cleansed again and even obtain the participation of a large number of disciples after the calamity ended. Qin Ling was Hanju's most precious grand disciple. Hanju naturally couldn't let him suffer. Hanju said, "Qin Ling's body was left in the hidden sect, and his soul was reincarnated. When taking revenge, he couldn't defeat the mighty figure of the Buddhist sect and felt despair." Later, Li Xianao informed him of his background in his previous life, so he went to the 100-peak immortal river and knelt down to seek strength. I then returned his body and let him escape the suffering of the mortal world. At the same time, he recovered his strength and ended the calamity. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du praised, "Good idea." The other sages of the older generation agreed. Qiu Shilai had no objections. It looked like the Buddhist sect was at a disadvantage, but it would benefit the most as long as the calamity went smoothly. Put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. The main philosophy of the Buddhist sect was to ensure peace for all living beings. The new sages had strange expressions. Was this the truth of the calamity? The sages had already decided on the entire process, including the outcome. The new sage recalled the legendary calamities and couldn't help but be terrified. Everything was planned ahead. Heavenly Venerate Wufa smiled. Perfect. Isn't there a rash junior outside the door? Why don't we let him fight Qin Ling, and both sides will be injured? The two top geniuses of the world will die together in order to fight for the sage position. It will become a legend that will last for generations. Isn't it more meaningful to reincarnate with such a legendary background? Qiu Shilai smiled. I agree. Zhang Guxing hesitated. This was courting death. However, he would not be completely dead. He could still be revived after the calamity ended. However, he was afraid of being played by the other sages. Zhang Guxing looked at Han Ju with a pleading gaze. Han Ju said, I think it's feasible. In the next life, Xia Zhizuan will be Qin Ling's best brother in the Divine Palace. The two of them will fight against the Buddhist sect together, and finally return to the Divine Palace. What he meant was that he wanted to protect Xia Zhizuan. Sages don't play tricks. Zhang Guxing heaved a sigh of relief and looked at him gratefully. The other sages praised Han Ju for his benevolence. Jin Shun sighed secretly. Authority was so disgusting. Xia Zhizuan also involved Pan Xian. After all, he was a descendant of Pangu. Unfortunately, Pan Xian was not in the heavenly Tao right now. However, with Han Ju's agreement, there was no problem. The calamity could already be prepared. The matter of the calamity was settled. Han Ju disappeared. The moment he left, the sages relaxed and began to laugh. They were not as serious as before. Li Taiga said meaningfully, Zhang Guxing, you're still too lax with the Divine Palace. Even if Xia Zhizuan can escape today, can Senior Han save the second Xia Zhizuan? Zhang Guxing sighed. We should indeed discipline him strictly. He stood up and prepared to teach Xia Zhizuan a lesson. He had lost all his face today. After returning to the Taoist temple, Han Ju sent a dream to Zhou Fan and told him about the calamity. He then asked him to tell Qin Ling to hurry up and return. Qin Ling would suffer in the calamity, but after the calamity ended, he would obtain a huge amount of heavenly Tao providence that could increase his cultivation. At the same time, his name would be passed down in the heavenly Tao for 10,000 years. He would receive countless benefits if he constantly absorbed faith. Is this a sage? Interesting. Han Ju muttered to himself as he opened his eyes. It had to be said that the feeling of deciding the fate of all living beings was wonderful. No wonder the sages were obsessed. Han Ju was not a good person, but he was not a bad person either. In his opinion, such a calamity was good. It was better than accumulating conflicts, causing chaos to break out sooner or later. He had to sacrifice something if he wanted the entire heavenly Tao to maintain a good development. Han Ju began to observe the heavenly Tao and took in the various forms of life. The number of ghosts in the immortal world and the myriad worlds was indeed increasing. Although it couldn't affect the heavenly Tao for the time being, the speed was indeed not optimistic. No wonder Heavenly Venerate Xian Du wanted to prepare for the calamity. Chapter 781 Shocking Appearance of the Primordial Fiend Celestial. Chapter 781 Shocking Appearance of the Primordial Fiend Celestial. The world was vast and dark clouds surged as if a dragon was churning it. In the mountains there was a vast valley. The huge peaks in all directions were like fingers with their palms facing the sky. In the valley, Tao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, and Jiangyi stood side by side as they looked at a huge cauldron in the distance. Green smoke curled up as the elder in the raincoat stood on the back of the water buffalo and looked down into the cauldron. The elder in the raincoat placed his left hand behind his waist and stroked his beard with his right hand. He frowned. Zhao Xianyuan muttered, "The situation doesn't seem optimistic." Jiangyi said with a worried expression, "What if we fail? If we knew earlier, we should have left after obtaining the supreme treasure. We shouldn't have listened to this old Taoist." Now we're trapped in this world by the great Tao divine spirit. We'll all die once we can't refine the primordial pill. Tao's sovereign frowned and looked at the elder in the raincoat with resentment. The elder in the raincoat heard their conversation and said angrily, "You three brats! Stop gossiping behind my back. When have I ever lied to you? It's just that the primordial pill is damaged. After all, countless years have passed. This is normal. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel." C0M Zhao Xianyuan rolled his eyes. He wanted to retort, but Tao's sovereign stopped him. "Don't disturb him, lest something really happens." Tao's sovereign pulled Zhao Xianyuan and Jiang Yi into the forest to meditate. After the three of them left, the old man frowned again. "What's going on? It doesn't make sense. Why can't the primordial pill take form? Could it be?" The elder in the raincoat thought of a possibility and trembled. "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. If the primordial fiend celestial had already been born and was not discovered, how terrifying would that be? A terrifying existence with immeasurable potential had been secretly growing. Wouldn't the entire chaos be slaughtered when he appeared?" The elder in the raincoat shifted his gaze back to the cauldron. A purple pill floated above the rolling flames and spun on its own. Its surface was covered in cracks. "No, if this continues, that fellow will definitely kill us if we can't refine the pill." The old man's eyes turned ruthless. He suddenly turned to look at Tao's sovereign and the other two. "The three of you, who wants to take the pill? Even if you can't become a primordial fiend celestial, you can still temporarily obtain the primordial fiend celestial's power and help us kill our way out. This opportunity is impossible to ask for. I'll let you take it." The old man in the raincoat used a voice transmission to explain, afraid that the great Tao divine spirit outside the world would hear him. Tao's sovereign and the other two's expressions changed. They did not curse. Instead, they sent a voice transmission to scold the elder. Those vulgar words entered the elder's ears, causing him to be furious. He couldn't show it on his face. "The reason why I'm not consuming it is that I want to maintain my rationality and use my spatial and time mystical power to avoid the pursuit of the great Tao divine spirit. Do you still want to live? That's right. I'll show you my cards. This pill can't be repaired. Everyone will die once it's discovered." Facing such a scoundrel, Zhao Xianyuan almost wanted to attack. Tao's sovereign took a deep breath and was about to take a step forward, but Jiang Yi left first, leaving only one sentence for the two of them. "Let me go. I just want to recall the invincible me from the past. Unfortunately, Sect Master can't see my glory. I really want him to tell me another story." Tao's sovereign frowned and could only sigh. Zhao Xianyuan gritted his teeth and wanted to stop him, but he had no choice. Jiang Yi came to the cauldron and jumped up, standing on it. The elder did not say anything else. He waved his sleeve and sent the primordial pill to his mouth. Jiang Yi opened his mouth and swallowed it. Whoosh! Jiang Yi's body suddenly burned with true sun flame. A pair of fire wings spread out from his back and wrapped around the old man and the cauldron. Immediately after, the elder in the raincoat jumped out and frantically patted the true sun flame on his body. "Little beast," the elder cursed silently, but he did not dare to say it, afraid that he would be discovered by the great Tao divine spirit. However, the great Tao divine spirit was not so easily fooled. "What are you doing?" A thunderous shout shook the entire world. Jiang Yi suddenly transformed into a huge three-legged golden crow and roared into the sky, as if he was shouting. He dared to challenge the great Tao divine spirit. What aura is this? How dare you? How dare you take the primordial pill without permission?" The great Tao divine spirit was first surprised, then became furious. The rolling thunderclouds suddenly exploded. A terrifying, huge hand descended and grabbed at Jiang Yi. With the anger of the gods, the world changed color. Inside the Taoist temple, Han Zhu had just entered seclusion for 10,000 years when he opened his eyes. He was already 2 million years old. Recently, he had been feeling inexplicably uneasy, causing him to be unable to cultivate in peace. Therefore, his seclusion ended after 10,000 years. He observed the 100-peak immortal river. No one was about to leave like the Fusang tree. Han Zhu suddenly saw Xing Hongxian frown, as if she was feeling uncomfortable. He immediately came to her Taoist temple and asked, "What's wrong?" He checked Xing Hongshuan's body and found nothing unusual. The fetus was fine, only trembling slightly. Xing Hongxian opened her eyes and said with lingering fear, "Husband, I started dreaming for some reason. I dreamed that our son kept crying, and that something around him seemed to want to hurt him." Hanju frowned and started to deduce. Soon, he locked onto Jiang Yi. He could sense a very dangerous aura from Jiang Yi, making him see him as his natural enemy. He immediately checked his emails and discovered Jiang Yi's situation. "Your good friend Jiang Yi has obtained the power of the primordial fiend celestial. He has lost his mind, and his cultivation has increased greatly." The power of the primordial fiend celestial? Hanju frowned even more. How did Jiang Yi become a primordial fiend celestial? He checked Jiang Yi's profile picture and saw that he did not transform into a primordial fiend celestial. He had no choice but to use the derivation function. He deducted 500 billion years of his lifespan and entered the illusion. Not long after, he opened his eyes. Primordial pill. There's actually such a divine item in the world. Hanju frowned and continued to ask in his mind, how was this primordial pill born? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? The value of a Tao creator. Continue. Primordial pill. Before the chaos, the primordial fiend celestial's Tao fruit transformed. Because the chaos replaced the primordial chaos, the primordial fiend celestial died. The Tao fruit carried a chance of survival and transformed into the primordial pill. Because of the current existence of the primordial fiend celestial in the chaos, the primordial pill lost its effect. Only the remnant power of the main body remains. The primordial fiend celestial before the chaos. Hanju's expression darkened. Crap. Jiang Yi's actions would definitely attract the attention of those terrifying existences. He would be doomed if he was labeled as a primordial fiend celestial. Hanju hesitated to save Jiang Yi. He suddenly thought of something. Jiang Yi had already lost his mind. Am I Jiang Yi's match now? 500 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Jiang Yi has already been possessed by the primordial fiend celestial. He will directly die after the short-term possession effect ends. He would die. What were these 3 unlucky fellows doing? Who was that old Taoist riding a cow? Hanju continued to use the derivation function. Chapter 782 Main Body and Clone. Chapter 782 Main Body and Clone. I want to know who the old Taoist who made Jiang Yi take the primordial pill is? 300 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. Lao Dan. Early stage Great Tao Supreme Realm. Laozi's Dharma Idol. Immeasurable Emperor. Sword Tao Sword Spirit Laozi's Dharma Idol? Hanju frowned. What did he want? Trying to scheme against him? With Lao Dan's cultivation, it was impossible for him to not deduce the relationship between Tao's sovereign and the other two. It was impossible for him to not know Hanju with Heavenly Venerate Xian Du around. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M in an instant, killing intent burst out of Hanju's eyes. The most important thing now was to save Jiang Yi. It was impossible to go personally. It was too dangerous. Hanju could only think of a way to save Jiang Yi as far as possible. He looked into the distance. The battle was isolated by a mysterious restriction. His gaze could not completely penetrate it. He could only sense the auras of Tao's sovereign and the other two, especially Jiang Yi. How violent! Even Hanju was shocked. There was a mighty figure outside the restriction. He was probably also in existence with the great Tao. His aura was powerful, and Hanju couldn't see through him. The terrifying true sun flame suddenly broke through the restriction and drowned the supreme existences. Flames burned space, and layers of space shattered until the primordial void appeared. Hanju finally saw Jiang Yi. He had already transformed into a flaming man. He had a human figure and a golden crow head. He had a pair of fire wings on his back, and his height was immeasurable. Even supreme existences seemed tiny in front of him. Jiang Yi roared angrily. The endless true sun flame swept in all directions. Even Hanju, who was in the heavenly Tao, felt his eyes burn. How scorching was this? Hanju was secretly shocked. How strong was the primordial fiend celestial before the chaos? Why did he die since he was so strong? For a time, Hanju was confused and even a little sad. Facing the crazy Jiang Yi, the supreme existences could not stop him at all. Jiang Yi rushed in a direction fearlessly. The true sun flame burned everything along the way. The stars and space turned into nothingness. Lao Dan brought Dao's sovereign and Zhao Xianyuan away and entered the spatial turbulence. Zhao Xianyuan asked anxiously, "Where's Jiang Yi? Did you ignore him?" Lao Dan cursed, "How? We were lucky not to be burned to death just now. Damn it, I didn't expect the effect of the primordial pill to be so domineering." He was filled with fear. How terrifying was the true primordial fiend celestial? Most importantly, he already knew that the primordial fiend celestial had already been born. This battle had caused such a huge commotion. Could that mysterious primordial fiend celestial be watching the battle? The thought of being targeted by the primordial fiend celestial made Lao Dan shiver in fear. Dao's sovereign gritted his teeth and asked, "What will happen to him after that? Will he die?" Once the medicinal effect passed, Jiang Yi's outcome, Dao's sovereign did not dare to imagine. Lao Dan was silent. Dao's sovereign said angrily, "Let us go back. I'll just die with him." Zhao Xianyuan also expressed his standing. "Old thing, you harmed us brothers. You will die a horrible death. Hurry up and let us back." Lao Dan looked at them in disbelief. "Are you crazy? You'll only die for nothing if you go back. The three of us will live and die together," Dao's sovereign said firmly, causing Lao Dan to fall silent. Zhao Xianyuan urged, "Don't pretend to be dead." The two of them were wrapped in Lao Dan's dermic powers and could not move. Otherwise, they would have long flown out. Lao Dan gritted her teeth. "I'm really unlucky to have the three of you. Forget it. I'll risk my life to save that kid." He began to form hand seals. His surging dermic powers stirred his raincoat, and a door of light appeared in front of him. Immediately after, a figure slowly walked out. This person looked identical to Lao Dan, but he wore a Taoist robe. His temperament was extraordinary, and his expression was indifferent, as if he had no emotions. Lao Dan looked embarrassed and said shamelessly, "Help me save someone. It's behind. You should be able to feel it." The other party was his true body, Laozi. Laozi asked expressionlessly, "Is it because of you?" Lao Dan coughed and nodded awkwardly. Laozi vanished without another word. Lao Dan heaved a sigh of relief. Zhao Xianyuan asked curiously, "Who was that just now? Your brother?" Lao Dan snorted. "We are the same person, like the main body and a clone." "You're the clone? How is that possible?" "Of course he's the clone. Don't worry. Your brother's life will be saved with him around. The main body is not as strong as the clone? Can you brag better?" "Brat, do you want to anger me to death?" Zhao Xianyuan fell silent. The atmosphere instantly fell silent. Dao's sovereign and Zhao Xianyuan were both worried about Jiang Yi. Lao Dan was also very embarrassed to see them so dejected. On the other side, Hanju suddenly saw a powerful aura approaching the battlefield, directly isolating his gaze and preventing him from spying on the battlefield. What was that? Hanju immediately checked the emails. There was indeed something. Your good friend Jiang Yi was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your good friend Jiang Yi's soul has been squeezed dry and is about to die. Your good friend Jiang Yi was saved by a mysterious mighty figure. His remnant soul was protected. He was saved. Who was this mysterious mighty figure? Hanju immediately deduced. 900 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So hi. Continue. A line of words appeared in front of him. Laozi, perfected great Tao supreme realm, transcendent Tao expert, Pango essence soul, personal disciple of the Tao ancestor, creator of the sword Tao, ancestor of the 100 schools, immeasurable emperor, ancestor of the human school, founder of the great Tao. How impressive! Hanju was shocked. He had guessed that Laozi might be very strong, but he didn't expect him to be so strong. This was even stronger than the previous Holy Mother of Order. No wonder heavenly venerate Xian, Du was confident in resisting the entire deity realm of the ruins of End. He had such a powerful backing. Han Ju was originally very dissatisfied with Laozi and thought that he was plotting against him. Now that Laozi had saved Jiang Yi, this dissatisfaction vanished like smoke. Will Jiang Yi be thought of as the primordial fiend celestial after this battle? Han Ju frowned and fell into worry. Laozi definitely knew that Jiang Yi was not the primordial fiend celestial, but could he protect him? Soon the battlefield ended. He looked over and didn't see Laozi or the supreme existences anymore. Han Ju's uneasiness dissipated. The power of the primordial fiend celestial had already vanished. At this moment Xing Hongxian said, "Husband, my son is quiet again." Just now, Han Ju stood beside her and stared in one direction with a serious expression. She didn't dare to disturb him. Han Ju came back to his senses and said, "Yes, it's over. Don't tell anyone about this. Just pretend that nothing happened." Xing Hongxian nodded. She did not ask why. She wasn't stupid. Her son had been nurtured for so many years and had yet to be born. He was definitely extraordinary and might attract many disasters. Han Ju comforted her again and then returned to the Taoist temple. He opened the emails and checked. He did not see any updates on Jiang Yi and the other two, so he could only give up. Forget it. Continue cultivating. Chapter 783 Divine Lord Xanu. Chapter 783 Divine Lord Xanu. Another 10,000 years passed. 10,000 years was a long time for mortals, an unattainable promise to stay together to people in love, and a day to those who attain the Tao. Han Ju opened his eyes. During this period of time, he didn't receive Laozi's dream. He didn't know what Laozi's attitude was towards Jiang Yi. He started checking his emails. Your son Han Tua was attacked by a mysterious ghost. X103932. Your good friend Yi Tian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your good friend Jiang Yi has reconstructed his body and cultivated the divine yang indestructible body. Your disciple Dao Sovereign has entered the primordial world's illusion. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan has entered the primordial world's illusion. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren has more than 100 million believers. His providence has increased. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M. Your good friend Fusang Tree has comprehended the space origin. Its cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Jiang Yi had indeed benefited from a disaster. Han Ju liked Laozi more. He was different from the other great Tao sages. He seemed to really have no desires. They might come to Han Ju because of this if it was any other great Tao sage. Even if they didn't want benefits, they had to build a good relationship. Perhaps it was precisely because of this that Laozi could shake off the great Tao sages in the deity realm of the ruins of End and focus on seeking the Tao, constantly surpassing the peak. Han Ju continued reading. The other disciples had their own opportunities in the past 10,000 years, and were all doing well. Divine Lord Peacock's heavy injuries attracted Han Ju's attention. He still acknowledged this fellow. If not for him pestering the cursed fiend celestial for hundreds of thousands of years, it wouldn't have died so easily. Han Ju thought for a moment, and decided to care about Divine Lord Peacock. He began to send a dream to him, appearing as the Dark Forbidden Lord. The dream was a beautiful starry sky. The galaxy was magnificent, and the light was layered. Divine Lord Peacock opened his eyes, and was pleasantly surprised to see Han Ju. Forbidden Lord, you finally appeared. Divine Lord Peacock said excitedly, and went in front of him. The cursed fiend celestial has disappeared for some reason. I can't find him. Divine Lord Peacock said gloomily. Han Ju said, the cursed fiend celestial is already dead. Dead? Divine Lord Peacock was stunned. He had been entangled with the cursed fiend celestial for so long, and knew how powerful it was. This fellow might have average dermic powers, but his escape ability was still very strong. Could it be the Dark Forbidden Lord had personally taken action? Divine Lord Peacock was in awe. Han Ju didn't explain further and asked, who injured you recently? Furious, Divine Lord Peacock immediately cursed. It's all because of that fellow. His name is Divine Lord Xianyu, a great Tao sage. He joined the Life faction and was extremely arrogant. He insisted that I submit to him. I'm still being suppressed by him. Divine Lord Xianyu. Hanju had never heard of him. He would use the derivation function to ask later. Forbidden Lord, since you're here, it means that you want to save me. Hurry up and attack. This fellow tortures me every day. I really can't stand it. Divine Lord Peacock said helplessly. If he did not encounter a great Tao sage, he would be in existence in the chaos. However, he was facing problems because of his potential. Great Tao sages often targeted him, wanting to subdue him. His situation was the most difficult among the freedom sages. As long as he had the backing of a great Tao sage, Divine Lord Peacock could attain the great Tao at any time. However, this fellow was stubborn and refused to bow his head. Hanju asked, "Did you learn anything about life from Divine Lord Xianyu?" Divine Lord Peacock thought for a moment and said, "He mentioned the devil ancestor before. He said that there are two geniuses under him, who are from the heavenly Tao. They both have talent that isn't inferior to mine, and will join life sooner or later. If I don't surrender, he will snatch my Tao fruit and give it to those two geniuses to help them obtain stronger potential." What nonsense! No one's talent can surpass mine. Not even a chaotic fiend celestial. Divine Lord Peacock was full of conceit. Hanju remained silent. Although Divine Lord Peacock was powerful, to be honest, Hanju didn't think that he was really the most talented. However, Divine Lord Xianyu actually targeted Han Tuo and Etian. This was not good. Hanju said, "Show me this Divine Lord Xianyu's appearance. I'll help you resolve this problem." Divine Lord Peacock was waiting for him to say this. He raised his hand and waved, and a figure appeared beside him. Hanju noted it down silently and removed the dream. He opened his eyes and asked in his mind, "Can I insta-kill Divine Lord Xianyu? 150 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" This value. Hanju suddenly didn't want to ask anymore. Forget it. Remain steady. Continue. Yes, Hanju was bored. He had wasted 150 billion years of his lifespan. With this value, he would definitely be insta-killed. What am I worried about? No. I should be worried. Being cautious was the right thing to do. This was one of the reasons why he could live until today. How could he despise his own caution? Hanju's eyes became firm and flashed with killing intent. The Dark Forbidden Zone had never been used since its creation. It was time to show off. Hanju directly sent a dream to Divine Lord Xianyu. It was still the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Divine Lord Xianyu wore a dark purple robe and a curtained pearl crown. At first glance, he looked like an emperor. Divine Lord Xianyu stared at him and frowned. "Who are you?" He was actually pulled into a dream. Before he entered the dream, he was still refining pills and was not distracted. Hanju said, "Let Divine Lord Peacock go. Perhaps I can give you a way out." Divine Lord Xianyu immediately laughed wildly when he heard that. I didn't expect Divine Lord Peacock to have someone backing him. However, he's already my pet. Stop dreaming. He wanted to jump out of the dream, but he realized that he could not. It seemed that the other party was stronger than him. However, it was useless. It was only a dream. Could this guy kill him in his dreams? Hanju stared at him and said, "Do you think you can be fearless after becoming life?" Divine Lord Xianyu smiled. "That's right. It's fine if you want to join life. Life is stronger than you can imagine. The chaos will definitely be dominated by life in the future. Life will create darkness and create the final meaning of existence." This guy was crazy. Hanju couldn't be bothered to chat with him anymore and directly used the Dark Forbidden Zone. In an instant, the entire dreamscape twisted violently. Darkness drowned them. Divine Lord Xianyu's laughter stopped. He was shocked to find that his main body had appeared in the dream. To be precise, the dream had become reality. Hanju took out the heaven-opening axe and appeared in front of him. Divine Lord Xianyu subconsciously waved his sleeve, and his robe emitted divine light to resist the heaven-opening axe. Boom! With the swing of the axe, his robe shattered and Divine Lord Xianyu was cut into two. The violent dermic powers destroyed his body and soul. This great Tao sage couldn't block Hanju's full-powered attack at all. Hanju waved his axe again. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes and sighed slightly. Being invincible is really lonely. Another insta-kill. There's no experience to speak of, Hanju muttered to himself. At his realm, a second was actually very long. It was enough for him to swing the heaven-opening axe billions of times. Chapter 784 Unparalleled Prodigy Eternal Fame. Chapter 784 Unparalleled Prodigy. Eternal Fame. Hanju sent a dream to Divine Lord Peacock after killing Divine Lord Xanyu. So fast. Divine Lord Peacock was stunned. How long had it been since the last dream? Could it be that the Dark Forbidden Lord had been following him and secretly protecting him? Impossible. Or, Divine Lord Peacock looked at the Dark Forbidden Lord with reverence. Hanju said, "Find a place to cultivate after you leave. I'll inform you at any time if I need you in the future." With that, Hanju directly removed the dream. Please keep reading on MYB0's novel. C0M. Divine Lord Peacock opened his eyes. He was imprisoned in a furnace. The space inside was extremely vast, like a world of flames. He looked up at the sky. 5-colored divine light shot out from his back and pierced through the sky, causing white light to shoot down from the entrance. Divine Lord Peacock jumped out and appeared in a hall. The hall was silent. Other than him, no other living beings could be seen. Divine Lord Peacock observed his surroundings warily, but did not detect Divine Lord Xanyu's aura. Divine Lord Xanyu shouldn't have fled. If he did, the power of the Dharma treasure would still be there. Only if he died would the restrictions of this cauldron weaken. Thus, Divine Lord Peacock could escape on his own. You think only you have a backing? Death is obviously the outcome. Divine Lord Peacock scanned the hall disdainfully. Then, he put away the cauldron that had suppressed him and left. Divine Lord Xan, you also had a world under him. There was no lack of sages. Divine Lord Peacock was filled with anger and needed to vent, so he slaughtered this world. Several hours later, Divine Lord Peacock appeared in the Dark Forbidden Zone. He snorted, "If you want to blame someone, blame yourselves for being born in the wrong place." He transformed into a 5-colored divine light and vanished into the darkness. Bujo Divine Mountain. Hanyu was meditating under the old tree when he suddenly opened his eyes and saw Qin Ling floating in front of him. Qin Ling wore divine armor and held a divine weapon. He flew with divine might and was more imposing than the immortals Hanyu had seen. Their eyes met and they smiled. Qin Ling landed and knelt in front of him and said firmly, "Unfilial Grand Disciple Qin Ling has returned to visit Grandmaster." He kowtowed. The woman in green in the distance was alarmed and opened her eyes to see this scene. She was secretly shocked. Qin Ling was not simple at a glance. Other than Hanju, she had never seen anyone with a stronger bearing than Qin Ling. Even Hanyu seemed weak in front of him. Qin Ling noticed the woman in green and asked, "She is?" Hanyu smiled. "Cultivators on the mountain. Don't worry about her. Tell me why you're back. How have you been for the past hundreds of thousands of years?" "Sure." Qin Ling agreed readily. He was also very excited to see Hanyu again. The woman in green was secretly shocked. Hundreds of thousands of years. If even his grand disciple was like this, how long had this senior lived? Qin Ling began to talk from the moment he went to the chaos. Soon, the woman in green listened carefully. Several days later, Qin Ling had just finished speaking when Hanyu sighed. He didn't expect Qin Ling to live such an exciting life all these years. The woman in green looked at Qin Ling with admiration. If it were her, she would have given up long ago. She suddenly felt that the hatred she carried was nothing after so many years. His master had probably already reincarnated. He might have already reincarnated as a prodigy. Qin Ling looked at the woman in green and hesitated. Hanyu immediately told her to go down the mountain. The woman in green curled her lips and immediately went down the mountain. Then, Qin Ling explained the reason for his return. Hearing that he was about to become the son of the immeasurable calamity and had to experience a lifetime of suffering, Hanyu couldn't help but frown. Qin Ling said calmly, "Grandmaster Zhou Fan told me that with the approval of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage, nothing will go wrong. The sages won't dare to scheme against me." At the mention of Hanju, The worry on Han Yu's face immediately disappeared. In that case, I won't stop you. Han Yu smiled. Qin Ling laughed. Han Yu sighed. I didn't expect you to have already grown so powerful. You can hold your own, and are even stronger than me. It really makes me happy. Qin Ling scratched his head and chuckled. How can that be? In my heart, Grandmaster is the most important and powerful person. No matter how strong I become, you will always be my elder and the closest person to me. You're the only one who knows how to talk. Hehe. Qin Ling left several months later. Han Yu stood at the edge of the cliff as he watched him leave. At this moment, he truly felt that Qin Ling had grown up. Han Yu felt inexplicably empty. He knew that it would be very difficult for Qin Ling to accompany him in the future. The time they spent together would only become shorter and longer. Han Yu couldn't help but think of Hanju. The hidden sect had nurtured countless geniuses, and many had even made a name for themselves in the chaos. Would the ancestor be as dejected as him? Impossible. Han Yu couldn't help but laugh, feeling that he was being silly. How could he compare to his ancestor? In the next 100 years, Qin Ling's reputation as a prodigy was frequently mentioned in the immortal world. First, many sages said that his talent was the strongest. Then Qin Ling challenged everyone everywhere to prove his strength. No one could hurt Qin Ling. They were all forcefully suppressed by him. At the same time, the Divine Palace began to create momentum for Xia Zhizuan. In the next 5,000 years, Qin Ling and Xia Zhizuan's reputation reached its peak. They became peerless geniuses that everyone in the immortal world knew. Until one day, these two unparalleled geniuses of the immortal world actually agreed to fight at the peak of Kunlun Mountain, shaking the immortal world. Countless cultivators went to watch the battle, because a sage said that the winner of the two would become an existence that surpassed the sages and become the strongest prodigy in the history of the heavenly Tao. The day of the final battle arrived. Billions of cultivators surrounded Kunlun Mountain and watched from afar. This battle was world-shattering. All the cultivators watching the battle were convinced, as expected of a peerless genius. However, the outcome caused an uproar. The two peerless geniuses were on par. In the end, they perished together and self-destructed, fighting to the death. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du took action and protected the two souls. Because they had caused huge destruction to the immortal world and accidentally injured countless spectators. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du let them reincarnate and awaken in the mortal world. Two unparalleled geniuses appeared in the same era and died together. This battle became a legend that lasted for thousands of years. Not only in the immortal world, but also in the myriad worlds, and even in the chaotic heavenly road. Qin Ling and Xia Zhizuan would become legendary names, like Pangu, the Three Pure Ones, the Tao Ancestor, the Divine Might Heavenly Sage, and so on. Perhaps they had not reached the sage realm, but their talent was left behind by countless cultivators in the future. Their future would be limitless if they didn't die young. It was precisely because of this that many cultivators even believed that their deaths were caused by sages, afraid that two more Pangu would appear. Netherworld. In the Yama Hall, Yang Tiandong looked at Qin Ling, who was tied up by the soul chains in the hall, and sighed. Not bad, not bad. Although he's dead, he still fought for the hidden sect. Qin Ling's expression was originally indifferent. Hearing this, he couldn't help but be moved. He asked cautiously. The King of Hell has a relationship with the hidden sect. Chapter 785 Chaos is War. Chapter 785 Chaos is War. I do have a relationship with the hidden sect, and we are more than close, Yang Tiandong said casually with a casual expression. Qin Ling's curiosity was piqued. Which disciple of the hidden sect is familiar with the King of Hell? He respected the hidden sect very much. Although he was doing well and stirring up trouble in the immortal world, he knew that he was not ranked at all in the hidden sect. How many sages had the hidden sect nurtured? The number of geniuses was countless. Millions of disciples were cultivating in the 100-peak immortal river. The world would definitely be shocked once they were released. Yang Tiandong cleared his throat and was about to posture when a voice entered his ears. His expression changed slightly as he looked at Qin Ling with a complicated expression. The person facing the calamity? Interesting. I didn't expect the heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity to come so quickly. Yang Tiandong suddenly felt pity for Qin Ling. The unparalleled prodigy, who had shocked the immortal world, was actually a pawn. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. Why didn't the hidden sect protect him? Yang Tiandong thought of Hanju and suddenly realized that Qin Ling, who was very powerful in his eyes, might not catch Hanju's eye at all. He immediately felt bored and lost the mood to posture. He waved his hand and said, "Go and reincarnate. I'll talk to you in the next life." Although Qin Ling was puzzled, he did not say anything. He would reincarnate first. The black and white deities left with his soul. Yang Tiandong fell into endless memories. What would have happened to him now if he had obeyed his master's orders back then? Unfortunately, his potential was not good. Su Qi was also disobedient, and even caused a calamity, causing the heavenly Tao to restart. Wasn't he still a sage now? In the end, he was unlucky and did not have great providence. Yang Tiandong sighed. He looked at his king of Hell Hall and felt depressed and melancholic. Actually, this was good too. There was no need to worry about life and death. He stayed here all day and watched as the tides rose and fell. This was also a status and power that he had never dared to imagine attaining. Yang Tiandong smiled and became happy again. In a mysterious space that only had white light, dozens of black shadows gathered. Their true appearance could not be seen. They were all facing an extremely huge black shadow. Divine Lord Xinu died very quickly. He couldn't resist at all. Before he died, he sent me this face, the huge black shadow said in a low voice. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 red lights burst out from his eyes and interwove, condensing into the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. The Dark Forbidden Lord looked very similar to the surrounding black shadows, but his body was surrounded by black flames. Most importantly, he held an axe. Who is this person? Was he harmed by fate? Wait, isn't this axe the heaven-opening axe? Previously, Heavenly Tao's Pan Xin pestered me and said that life had stolen his heaven-opening axe. Could it be? How is that possible? How can such a supreme treasure be stolen? I'm afraid he's acting. But Pan Xin is only a freedom sage. How can he easily kill a great Tao sage? Dozens of black shadows began to argue. Shi Du Dao, Ancestor Shitian, and Li Daokong were also among them. Shi Du Dao was secretly puzzled. Why did the Dark Forbidden Lord want to kill life? Wasn't life created by him? He suddenly felt that he could not see through it anymore. The huge black shadow said, "Do you think he's the Dark Forbidden Lord?" Dark Forbidden Lord. All the black shadows were stunned. Most of them did not know much about the Dark Forbidden Lord. They had only heard of him. It was said that the deity realm of the ruins of En swept through the heavenly Tao. The reason why it failed time after another was not only because the heavenly Tao had given birth to a chaotic fiend celestial, but also because of the Dark Forbidden Lord. A black shadow said, "Isn't the Dark Forbidden Lord only good at curses?" The huge black shadow said in a low voice. After thinking about it, it can only be the Dark Forbidden Lord. He cursed me before, even though he couldn't hurt me at all. It proves his motive. The Dark Forbidden Lord saved Divine Lord Peacock probably to nurture him. We don't know how many mighty figures he has under him. Next, we want you to spread the news that the Dark Forbidden Lord is killing life and is preparing to overturn the chaos. The Devil Ancestor will definitely appear. The chaotic fiend celestials and the eternal deities will each form a race. The chaos is already in chaos, so let's make it more chaotic. Chaos is a great battle. The chaos will only shatter in the battle. At that time, darkness will descend. Dozens of black shadows agreed. Shi Du Dao guessed. When darkness descended, he remembered that before he encountered life, the Dark Forbidden Lord had told him that when the darkness descended, it would be the day the Dark Forbidden Lord appeared. From the looks of it, the so-called life was only a pawn of the Dark Forbidden Lord. The current conflict was probably because the Dark Forbidden Lord wanted life to act faster. He had indeed been a little lazy recently. Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. He had been in seclusion for 10,000 years, ever since he saved Divine Lord Peacock. He was getting closer and closer to breaking through. He took out the Book of Misfortune. It had long been upgraded, and was now a great Tao supreme treasure. It had been too long since he had cursed. He wasn't used to it. He immediately started cursing the first life Black Sovereign. He would curse for 5 days and end it before his lifespan decreased. Awesome. Hanju put away the Book of Misfortune and started to observe the heavenly Tao. The reason why he had only entered seclusion for 10,000 years was to see Qin Ling. To be precise, it was the first calamity after the heavenly Tao restarted. Qin Ling had already reincarnated. His background was the same as the sage's plan. His village was attacked by demons and Buddhas. When he subdued the demons, he accidentally killed Qin Ling's parents. Qin Ling began to seek revenge and visit the immortals. At the age of 37, he finally met an expert from the Divine Palace and joined it. Qin Ling was still cultivating in the Divine Palace. Xia Jizuan had already reincarnated and was still a disciple of the Divine Palace. He did not hide his background, so after his reincarnation, he was still respected by the disciples. However, he couldn't remember everything about his previous life and could only know from his fellow disciples that he was very powerful in his previous life. They were both in the Divine Palace, and Xia Jizuan was the center of attention, while Qin Ling was only an ordinary disciple. The two of them looked like they would never interact. Hanju looked away after a while. He believed that the sages would not dare to act recklessly. If anyone really dared, he would show the dignity of the divine might heavenly sage. It had been a long time since Hanju used force on the sages. He guessed that the new sages didn't know his strength very well. Then he began to check his emails. Your good friend Etion was attacked by chaotic devil insects X990028743. Your son Han Tua was attacked by chaotic devil insects X9028366722. Your good friend Jiang, he has comprehended the chaotic sun origin. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Shi Dudao was attacked. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian was attacked. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has become life. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor has obtained a chaotic supreme treasure. His providence has increased greatly. Why did Huang Zuantian become life? Hanju showed a frown. Huang Zuantian was loyal. He couldn't ignore him. After some thinking, Hanju decided to visit Huang Zuantian in his dreams. Chapter 786 Shame, Tao Companion. Chapter 786 Shame, Tao Companion. The dream was a forest near the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Huang Zuantian opened his eyes and saw that it was Hanju. He immediately stood up and bowed. Master, Huang Zuantian said respectfully. Hanju noticed that he had become as sinister as Ancestor Shitian. The transformation of his temperament was visible to the naked eye, and he didn't have the holy bearing of a sage. Hanju asked, why did you cut off the providence of the heavenly Tao recently? He did not ask about life directly, as if he did not know the truth. Huang Zuantian replied helplessly, I was useless. I was attacked and forced to become life. Speaking of this, he wished that there was a hole in the ground for him to hide in. Defeated by a few lives? 1. What realm? / Please keep reading on Wuxia World. EU Primordial Chaos Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Hanju was speechless. Huang Zuantian was ashamed and trembling. He was busy fighting for power. It had been too long since he had fought with someone at the same realm. If he was not careful during the battle, he would be sealed by the other party. Thinking back, he felt so weak. Hanju sighed. It's not your fault. You're indeed not talented in combat. Huang Zuantian was extremely embarrassed. He wanted to say that he was also talented. Back then, he was also an invincible existence in the mortal world, until he met Hanju. He was too ashamed to say anything. He could only bury his face and remain silent. In that case, you can hide in the life faction, just like how you hid in the Jie school. Can you do that? Hanju asked. Huang Zuantian suddenly looked up and said, that's what I think. I'll make up for it. Hanju said, protect yourself. If there's a chance, I'll think of a way to save you. Don't. I'll be really useless if I need your help. Let me hide in the life faction. If you want to know anything in the future, I can help you obtain information. Perhaps I can give you a surprise. Huang Zuantian did not say this. After all, The chaos was different from the heavenly Tao. Compared to the heavenly Tao, the chaos was less calculative. It was more about survival of the fittest. There's still a chance things may go wrong. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if Huang Zuantian was killed by a brute? Hanju said. All right, that's all. The dream ended. Hanju opened his eyes helplessly. It had to be said that life was indeed a little powerful. Li Daokong, Shi Du Dao, Ancestor Shitian, and Huang Zuantian were all captured. Just with the heavenly Tao alone, in the entire chaos, how much power had the first life black sovereign accumulated? Why aren't there any powerful great Tao supremacies going up to find trouble with the first life black sovereign? They're all wandering around me. Hanju felt bitter. Perhaps the first life black sovereign was more dangerous than him. But this fellow had a way to escape. After all, this fellow grasped the great Tao Providence divine authority. Even Pangu couldn't completely kill him. Hanju continued reading the emails. It was all opportunities and beatings. They couldn't attract his attention anymore. Hanju's gaze landed on the 100-peak immortal river. He discovered that the black hell chicken had already become a pseudo-sage, but it did not look for him. He counted with his fingers and shook his head with a smile. It was because the chaotic heavenly dog, Ada, Xiao Er, and the other personal disciples had not reached the pseudo-sage realm. The black hell chicken was waiting for them. They wanted to find Hanju together because they guessed that once they found him, they would have to leave the 100-peak immortal river. More than 1,000,000 years had passed. These guys were close and could not bear to leave each other behind. Not bad. Under Hanju, the disciples formed different circles. Fortunately, there were no conflicts for the time being. It was mainly because the heavenly Tao and the hidden sect were both developing and could still grow, so there were no conflicts. Once the hidden sect could no longer expand, and they could no longer become stronger, they could only fight for power in the existing factions. Hanju was never afraid of internal strife among his disciples. He could always throw them into the primordial heavenly prison. At this moment, Hanju felt an extremely terrifying aura. Chaotic Fiend Celestial Red Fate. Hanju immediately used the simulation trial to detect her existence. Red Fate. Late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm, Chaotic Fiend Celestial. She has a favorable impression of you, because you killed the Despair Tao spirit. Current favorability. 3 stars. This favorability appeared when the Fiend Celestials gathered. Hanju didn't care at that time. Woman, you deliberately approached me. You must have a motive. Wasn't she here now? Hanju directly started the simulation trial. 3 breaths later, he opened his eyes and frowned. He entered the simulation trial again. A breath later, he opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. Killing intent suddenly burst out from Hanju's eyes. Should he just kill this fellow? To avoid causing trouble for me? No, the other party did not have any hatred towards him. How could he kill her? Hanju never killed his friends. Moreover, killing Red Fate would definitely attract the Chaotic Fiend Celestial's attention. It would be harmful but not beneficial. Fine then. Hanju created a clone and went to see her. Red Fate was waiting in the dark forbidden zone. Seeing Hanju appear, she smiled like a flower, enough to topple all living beings. However, in his eyes, her smile was so cunning. Hanju asked, "Why are you here, fellow Taoist Red Fate?" Red Fate covered his mouth and laughed. "Didn't you invite me?" Fellow Taoist Han appeared very quickly. "I thought I still had to wait for a while. The heavenly Tao is really a good place. Even we great Tao sages can't enter without permission." Hanju smiled. "Then there has to be a reason why you came to visit me, right?" What did she mean? You still want to barge in? Hanju almost pulled out his axe. "The reason is that I want to be close to fellow Taoist Han. After living for so many years, only fellow Taoist Han suits my taste. You're also a chaotic fiend celestial, so I naturally want to be close to you." Red Fate smiled and pretended to be coy. Hanju was not confused. They were all old foxes who had been around for billions of years. Even if what she said was true, she probably wanted to cozy up to him. However, Hanju was afraid of trouble. Recently, a special space-time dimension has appeared in the chaotic spring. It might contain a great opportunity. Fellow Taoist Han, are you willing to follow me and increase our relationship? Perhaps after this trip, you and I will become Tao companions. Hanju said. I already have a Tao companion, and there's more than one. I've had countless fun in the past, and have seen through the mortal world. That's why I'm cultivating so diligently today. I don't need a Tao companion anymore. Thank you for your favor, fellow Taoist Red Fate. Red Fate smiled. It's fine. I don't care. Fellow Taoist Han, don't be in a hurry to refuse. What if you suddenly change your mind in the future? Hanju chuckled. We'll talk about it in the future. Then are you going? Forget it. It's too far from the heavenly Tao. I'm afraid of death. You're afraid that I'll harm you? How is that possible? Even if fellow Taoist Red Fate doesn't harm me, what if I encounter enemies? What if I encounter a great Tao Supreme on the way, and he doesn't like the two of us? Your thoughts are really strange. How can a great Tao Supreme be so easy to encounter? Furthermore, why would they attack without caring about karma? Red Fate shook her head and laughed, feeling that he was more and more interesting. Hanju was helpless. Since she had already said so, how could he not understand? Must they fall out? Chapter 787 Appearance of the Forbidden Lord, Primordial World's Illusion. Chapter 787 Appearance of the Forbidden Lord, Primordial World's Illusion. Hanju and Red Fate exchanged a few pleasantries. Seeing that he was determined not to go out, she could only give up. Red Fate smiled and said, In that case, I'll visit you in the future. If you want to find me, you can come to me at any time. With that, she cupped her hands and left. Hanju secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, dealing with women was the most tiring. Hanju's clone returned to the heavenly Tao, and quickly entered his main body. Disappearing Hanju couldn't be bothered to deduce Red Fate's true intentions. He just didn't want to go out. He closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Next, he had to break through to the late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. It had been nearly 600,000 years since his last breakthrough. Hanju felt that time passed very quickly. It was much faster than the previous 600,000 years. Perhaps this was life. The older he got, the faster time passed. Outside the 33rd Heaven, Universal Hall. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu, Heavenly Venerate Wufa Pan Xian, Qiu Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, and Fong Liang gathered here. Pan Xian recounted what had happened in the chaos recently, causing the other sages to frown. The Dark Forbidden Lord had appeared. This name was like thunder to them. It was said that the reason why the heavenly Tao restarted back then was that the Dark Forbidden Lord had forced sage-fated secrets into a corner. It could be said that the Dark Forbidden Lord manipulated everything behind the previous immeasurable calamity. They suspected that the Dark Forbidden Lord wanted to support the heavenly court. But in the end, the evil heavenly emperor was chased out of the heavenly Tao. Looking at the outcome, there was no winner. The entire heavenly Tao was damaged by the Dark Forbidden Lord, causing the deity realm of the ruins of N to attack it later. The heavenly Tao would have long been finished if not for Hanju. They had also suspected that Hanju was related to the Dark Forbidden Lord. But on careful thought, there was no logic. Hanju also claimed to have been cursed by the Dark Forbidden Lord. Heavenly Venerate Wufa sighed. The Dark Forbidden Lord is really powerful. He can even subdue Divine Lord Peacock. This fellow is famous for being arrogant. He doesn't care about any great Tao sage. Sect Master Tianju frowned. We don't know how much power the Dark Forbidden Lord has accumulated, but there have always been remnants of the Darkness sect in the immortal world and the myriad worlds. Jing Tiangong even brought a group of trusted aides to the chaos. This is only the heavenly Tao. In the entire chaos, its power probably far exceeds our expectations. Qiu Shilai was also worried. Yes, the Dark Forbidden Lord targeted the heavenly Tao in the past. He might make a comeback in the future. To be honest, I will be cursed every once in a while. Although I'm not injured, it makes me uneasy. The Dark Forbidden Lord was a saber hanging above the heavenly Tao. In the previous calamity, the calamity that should have lasted for millions of years, was forced to speed up by the Dark Forbidden Lord. In the end, a Tao destruction mystical power even appeared, becoming the most tragic calamity in history. Why Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said. Other than being careful of the dark forbidden lord, there's another thing. Huang Zuantian was captured like Li Daokong and Shidu Dao. His heavenly Dao providence was severed. Let's choose the new sage from the Jie school. Sect Master Tianju's expression was ugly as he nodded slightly. He still thought highly of Huang Zuantian, but he had no choice. The current heavenly Dao was not suitable to fight with life. Pan Xian cursed. Damn it, they're too arrogant. If not for the fact that we have to consider the heavenly Dao, I really want to destroy them. The heavenly Dao needed to develop in the chaos. Once an all-out war broke out, many heavenly Dao living beings wandering outside would definitely be affected. Even if the heavenly Dao did not lose, it would stop developing for a long time in the future, and even decline. Should we tell Grandmaster about this? Feng Liang asked. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, there's no need. Huang Zuantian is not a disciple of the hidden sect. As for the dark forbidden lord, we can't even find him. Telling fellow Taoist Han will only increase his worries and affect his cultivation. The heavenly Dao doesn't rely on current unity, but fellow Taoist Han's strength. You should know this. The sages nodded. Without Hanju, how could they be united? Without Hanju, even if they were united, how many calamities could they survive? Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, the immeasurable calamity is about to begin. Everyone, if you have the time, keep an eye on the immortal world, to prevent some new sages from not knowing the rules. Heavenly Venerate Wufa smiled. It's good if someone doesn't know the rules. Let's kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. Sect Master Tianju, Pan Xian, Feng Liang, and Qiu Shilai also smiled. As more and more heavenly Dao sages appeared, the hierarchy had also been formed. Although they were at the same realm, the status of the old-school sages was higher than the new sages. The sages continued to discuss the situation of the chaos. Under the blue sky, the mountains surrounded a huge lake. The surface of the lake was filled with mist, like a paradise. By the lake, the old man in the raincoat, Lao Dan, leaned against the water buffalo lying on the grass. The fishing rod was very long and sank into the mist. Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan, and Jiang Yi sat not far away. Zhao Xinyuan suddenly opened his eyes and asked, Old man, how much longer are we going to stay here? We've already passed the primordial world illusion, and completed the trial perfectly. Why can't we leave? Lao Dan snorted. What's the hurry? Your cultivation levels are too weak. You won't be able to protect the little golden crow if you leave now. Jiang Yi was dissatisfied. So be it. Why do you have to say little? I'm older than you. Lao Dan chuckled. Dao Sovereign asked, Senior, where is this world? The spirit chi is not bad. Almost half of our 100-peak immortal river. He did not say this. Lao Dan said proudly, this is the boundless world. It forms a world of its own, but there are no living beings here. My Dao field contains boundless spirit chi, Kanate chi, and even chaotic chi. You three brats are really lucky. Zhao Xinyuan rolled his eyes. Dao Sovereign looked at Jiang Yi and asked, how's your cultivation recently? Are you feeling uncomfortable? Jiang Yi smiled. No, the divine yang indestructible body is indeed powerful. It won't be long before I can recover the primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal Dao fruit. Dao Sovereign nodded, his eyes filled with relief. Jiang Yi was clearly older than them, but among the three of them, he was like the third brother. Dao Sovereign and Zhao Xinyuan would give in to him. By the way, you still have to enter the primordial world's illusion and experience the divine investiture, or 5,000 years later. Your opponents might be sages, or even the Dao ancestor. Be prepared. Lao Dan's voice floated over, causing Dao Sovereign and the other two to be moved. Dao ancestor. They did not panic. Instead, they were excited. Lao Dan noticed their expressions and sighed. It had to be said that these three brats were indeed bold. Once nurtured well, they would definitely be geniuses who stirred up the chaos in the future. Lao Dan couldn't help but think of Hanju. He had never seen him, but he had heard of the divine might heavenly sage in the chaos. In addition to Dao Sovereign and the other two, how could he not know Hanju? This child was talented, and had so many talented but loyal disciples. What kind of person was he? Lao Dan suddenly became interested in Hanju. Chapter 788 10 Quadrillion Years. Chapter 788 10 Quadrillion Years. Lao Dan has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star. This notification appeared in front of Hanju, who was cultivating. He didn't care and continued cultivating. He might still be curious if Laozi's main body had a favorable impression of him. Time passed. Year after year passed. Hanju entered seclusion for 120,000 years in one go and finally welcomed the opportunity to break through. He opened his eyes and adjusted his state of mind. He was finally about to break through. If he didn't break through now, Hanju would think that he was mediocre. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. Should he use his lifespan before breaking through? It would be refreshed anyway. Hanju had lost half of his lifespan when he used the Mystical Destiny book, but he still had more than 15 nonillion years of lifespan. Who should he use it on? According to the hatred points, it was definitely the first life Black Sovereign. However, Hanju still wanted to use the first life Black Sovereign to attract the firepower of the chaos, giving the heavenly Tao in him time to develop. Forget it, I'll curse. He did not want to keep poaching from the heavenly Tao. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing the first life Black Sovereign. 5 days later, his lifespan began to decrease. As he cursed, he hesitated. How much lifespan should he use this time? Perhaps septillion years of lifespan? It was barely anything. Would he be cursed to death? He could try. As Hanju thought silently, the black light of the Book of Misfortune shone in the Taoist temple, looking extremely sinister and terrifying in a dark palace. The first life Black Sovereign was circulating his energy to resist the curse. He still maintained his black shadow image and concealed his true body. Humph. Again? I want to see if you can hurt me this time. First life Black Sovereign snorted coldly as he began to use the karma mystical power he had learned previously to especially resist the curse. He waved his hands slowly, and with some profound pattern, he gradually stirred up dazzling afterimages. At this moment, his expression changed. The curse power suddenly strengthened. It was much stronger than before, and it was still strengthening. First life Black Sovereign was shocked to discover that his mystical power was useless. Damn it, that dog lied to me. This mystical power can't block it at all. First life Black Sovereign panicked. He had concluded that once the curse lasted for more than 5 days, it meant that the Dark Forbidden had taken the initiative to kill. Why could it be because he had recently deliberately defamed the Dark Forbidden Lord? The first life Black Sovereign was uneasy. After living for countless years, this was the first time he had encountered such a terrifying opponent. He didn't even know who the other party was. First life Black Sovereign could only try his best to block and pray in his heart. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju stared at his lifespan and maintained his full strength. He had already lost a quadrillion years of his lifespan, 2 quadrillion years of lifespan, 5 quadrillion years of lifespan. Because of your curse, the Tao heart of your enemy, the first life Black Sovereign cracked. Continue. 7 quadrillion years, 9 quadrillion years, 10 quadrillion years. Because of your curse, the Tao heart of your enemy, the first life Black Sovereign was damaged. His cultivation was damaged and his soul is in chaos. Forget it. This fellow was done for. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune. He was hesitating if he should visit the first life Black Sovereign in his dreams. It depended on his attitude. Hanju immediately used the Dark Nightmare and met the first life Black Sovereign in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. The dream was a void where only the two of them existed. The first life Black Sovereign opened his eyes. Both sides were in the form of black shadows, but the Dark Forbidden Lord was surrounded by black flames and looked even stranger. It's really you, First life Black Sovereign said with a complicated tone. The image of the enemy that Divine Lord Xian had sent him before his death was the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Hanju stared at him coldly and didn't say anything. Both sides fell silent. Regarding the Dark Forbidden Lord, the first life Black Sovereign naturally hated him and was very angry. However, logic told him not to act recklessly. He couldn't resist the curse of the Dark Forbidden Lord at all. After a long while, First Life Black Sovereign asked in a low voice, "What do you want, fellow Taoist?" Hanju asked in a hoarse voice, "First Life Black Sovereign, what do you want?" First Life Black Sovereign was shocked. He had always been hiding his identity. How did the other party know his Dao title? Could it also be an ancient existence? The First Life Black Sovereign panicked. Figures flashed through his mind. They were all existences older than the heavenly Tao. Hanju suddenly removed the dream. He opened his eyes and smiled thoughtfully. He had already felt the chaos in the First Life Black Sovereign's heart. Enough. The more he said, the more mistakes he would make. Next, it depended on what the First Life Black Sovereign would do. Hanju suddenly felt melancholic again. He still had too few enemies. It was very difficult to find someone to vent to. Hanju sighed, and could only prepare to break through on the peak of Buzhou Divine Mountain. Han Yu and the woman in green stood at the edge of the cliff looking down the mountain. The sea of clouds covered the scenery below. The woman in green asked curiously, "Senior, what are you thinking?" Han Yu said softly, "After so many years, is the hatred in your heart still there?" The woman in green frowned and replied, "I'm ashamed to say this, but it's indeed much fainter." After staying by Han Yu's side for hundreds of thousands of years, she had clearly not experienced much. Instead, she had become even more relieved. She had already thought through many things that she could not figure out, and many things that she cared about had already become unimportant. She didn't know if her change was correct. Did she see through the mortal world, or was she afraid of it? Did she put down all her obsessions to protect herself? You've been on this mountain for so long and are isolated from the world. What do you think of the world now? Han Yu asked. His eyes were melancholic, and it was unknown what he was thinking. The green-robed woman said, "A day in heaven is a year on earth." This is not a lie. From the perspective of a lifetime, the suffering of a person indeed overshadows everything. However, from the perspective of 100 lifetimes and 10,000 lifetimes, one will die in the end. What is the pain of a lifetime? For mortals to float in the cycle of reincarnation is great suffering in itself. It is greater than any suffering in the world. Senior, why do you think humans exist? Why do those mortals without cultivation potential exist? Is this world a prison? But if cultivators make a mistake, they have to enter the cycle of reincarnation to suffer? Han Yu glanced at her and said, "Actually, I'm not sure either. But I know one thing. Destiny exists. What is fate? It is the fate that is determined from birth." The reason why he was worried was that he saw Qin Ling suffering. After more than 100,000 years, Qin Ling had already become stronger. However, the grudges on his body increased and his obsession deepened. From the looks of it, Qin Ling had suffered too much in this life. It was so bitter that Han Yu couldn't stand it anymore. However, Han Yu knew that this was only a calamity. After the calamity, Qin Ling could transcend and obtain a greater future. The conflict caused by the difference made Han Yu very confused. All living beings were only a game of chess for sages? Then whose pawn were the sages? Who was manipulating everything from the unknown? Was he smiling or crying? Or perhaps he was indifferent? The green-robed woman said, "However, with 3,000 great Tao, isn't there still a chance of survival? Other than descending into the mortal world to suffer, aren't there still mortals in the world who defy the heavens and become deities or sages?" Chapter 789 Late Stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. Chapter 789 Late Stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. That chance of survival might be a hint of pity. Han Yu sighed. The woman in green did not understand. Who was he referring to? Han Yu turned around and walked towards the old tree. He smiled and said, "Continue cultivating. No matter what, you are happy and carefree now. Seize the time well and fight for that trace of life for yourself." The woman in green hurriedly followed and smiled. "Cultivation doesn't matter to me. Being by your side all day long is my greatest satisfaction. I don't need you to serve me. What have you done for me all these years?" "That's because you don't need it, but my intentions are true." Heh. Han Yu sat under the old tree and closed his eyes to cultivate. As for the woman in green, he couldn't be bothered. Please keep reading on myboxin 0VL. C0M Qin Ling's encounter stimulated Han Yu. He knew very well that if not for his ancestor, he would probably be a pawn in the mortal world. How could he be so free on Buzhou Divine Mountain that no one dared to disturb him? He couldn't let his ancestor down. He also had to work hard to jump out of the chessboard and become a player. 5,000 years later, Han Ju finally broke through late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm. His dermic powers began to increase. The long-awaited comfort made him happy. As he consolidated his cultivation, he checked his attributes list. Name: Han Ju. Lifespan: 1,345,281/90. 329, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999. Race: Primordial Fiend Celestial, Immeasurable Emperor. Cultivation: Late-stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm, Perfect Sage. Technique: Primordial Chaos Reincarnation. Great Tao, Heavenly Cycle. Body Tempering, Great Tao of Life and Death, Great Tao of Karma, Great Tao of Extreme Origin. This breakthrough meant that his lifespan had tripled compared to before he used the mystical Destiny book. Not bad. Not bad. Han Ju was very satisfied. His lifespan should increase by leaps and bounds when he reached the Great Tao Supreme Realm. Han Ju looked forward to that day. It took nearly 700,000 years to reach the late stage, and it would probably take 1,000,000 years to reach the perfected stage. There was still a long way to go. It took Han Ju 500 years to consolidate his cultivation. He began to comprehend the mystical powers. He first raised his Sword Tao mystical powers to the extreme before cultivating the Grand Unity aspect. It took another 300 years. He had newly learned 300 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols, accumulating 1,149. His strength had increased greatly. At Han Ju's realm, his dermic powers were endless. Therefore, the more Fiend Celestial Dharma idols there were, the more Han Ju's strength increased. It seemed like he had only broken through a minor realm, but his strength had changed drastically. It had to be said that the stellar primordial body was indeed powerful. It could control so many Dharma idols at once. Not only that, but every time he mastered a Fiend Celestial Dharma idol, the Fiend Celestial Qi would automatically condense. When Han Ju reached a certain extreme realm, the primordial world in the depths of his soul might become another chaos world. There was a chaotic origin stone in the primordial world that could constantly increase the chaotic qi. However, the primordial world itself was producing the nebulous primordial qi. At first, the two sides were small and did not affect each other. Now the nebulous primordial qi occupied most of the primordial world, and it was still gradually corroding the chaotic qi. Apart from producing chaotic qi, the chaotic origin stone could also transform into all things. It had the great creation of all living beings. If the primordial world wanted to become a world of its own, it would need the chaotic origin stone sooner or later. Han Ju now felt that the chaotic origin stone might affect the nebulous primordial qi, so he wanted to take it out after he found a place for the third Tao field. Creating a world in his body sounded wonderful and impressive, but in fact, it had created a weakness for him. Would the enemy attack him through this world? Han Ju didn't want to have a weakness. Then he began the simulation trial. The target was still the foolish sword sage. 1,000 foolish sword sages. Han Ju's goal was to be absolutely invincible in the same realm, to easily insta-kill many enemies no matter how there were. He hoped that before he broke through to the Great Tao Supreme Realm, he could already challenge 10,000 foolish sword sages or even more. An hour later, Han Ju continued the second simulation trial. It repeated the cycle. He wanted to train his combat ability in battle. In the mysterious plain, there was an ocean below the sky. A majestic figure appeared at the end of the sea. Divine light billions of feet behind him was dazzling. It was the Holy Mother of Order. The divine-robed Taoist descended from the sky and landed in front of the Holy Mother of Order. He cupped his hands and bowed. "May I know why the Holy Mother called me here?" The divine-robed Taoist asked with a smile. He didn't seem to be affected by the primordial heavenly prison and was as arrogant as ever. The Holy Mother of Order said, "It's about the primordial fiend celestial. Not long ago, a living being consumed the primordial pill and obtained the power of the primordial fiend celestial. It shook the great Tao Providence divine authority of the chaos. The divine authority was automatically on guard, so it gave birth to 10,000 divine authority generals. The divine authority generals have no intention of becoming independent. They will travel the chaos to find the primordial fiend celestial. At that time, don't conflict with them." Divine authority generals? The divine robed Taoist frowned. "How's their cultivation?" The Holy Mother of Order said, "It's equivalent to 10,000 great Tao sages. This power can definitely dominate the chaos. This is the power of the great Tao Providence divine authority. Why is there peace in the chaos? If you stop it, you will be judged to be harming the chaos. Do you understand?" The divine robed Taoist's eyelids twitched. 10,000 great Tao sages. Too ridiculous. There might not even be 1,000 great Tao sages in the chaos. This was the accumulation of countless years. This was enough to show how terrifying the power of the great Tao divine authority was. It was enough to cleanse the chaos. The divine robed Taoist said, "Thank you for your reminder, Holy Mother. I'll remember it." The Holy Mother of Order asked, "Have you let go of your hatred for the heavenly Tao?" The divine robed Taoist smiled. "There's no hatred. I'm just doing this for benefits. Since I can't defeat him, I naturally have to let it go. Not only that, but I've also befriended him. In the future, we can rely on each other. It can be considered a blessing in disguise." The Holy Mother of Order said, "That's right. Well done. In the chaos, especially the great Tao sages, how can there be so many life and death grudges? Putting down the grudges and comprehending the Tao is what the great Tao sages should do. The chaos looks stable, but it can collapse at any time. The so-called chaos is only a manifestation of the power of the great Tao Providence divine authority to occupy the primordial void. Perhaps other divine authorities will appear in the future to replace the chaos and create a new name, just like the darkness pursued by life." The divine robed Taoist said disdainfully, "Life is stupid. They can't rely on strength if they want to overturn the chaos. They don't even know what the great Tao Providence divine authority is." "Yes, that's all," the Holy Mother of Order responded. The divine robed Taoist bowed and left, quickly disappearing. Not long after, the space above the sea fluctuated violently, and a figure appeared. It was Laozi. Laozi's expression was indifferent. He looked at the Holy Mother of Order and said, "Holy Mother, can you deduce why the primordial pill failed?" The Holy Mother of Order said, "Don't you believe in indifference and non-emotion? Why are you asking about this?" Chapter 790 My name is Liu Bei. Chapter 790 My name is Liu Bei. That is only a cultivation attitude. The failure of the primordial pill might signal a calamity. It will affect all cultivators. Laozi replied calmly without any fluctuation in his tone. The Holy Mother of Order said, "I don't know why it failed, but a supreme existence said that the primordial fiend celestial, who stirred up the great Tao immeasurable calamity has yet to be born." Laozi was deep in thought. The Holy Mother of Order continued, "Many ancient existences want to become primordial fiend celestials. The primordial pill might be one of their methods." Laozi said, "Thank you for your guidance, Holy Mother." With that, he turned around and prepared to leave. "Laozi, do you think the Tao ancestor also wants to become a primordial fiend celestial?" The Holy Mother of Order's voice floated over again. In an instant, the clouds in the sky stopped moving. With his back facing the Holy Mother of Order, Laozi asked, "The Holy Mother does not enter karma or fate. Why do you care about the Tao ancestor's fate? Please keep reading on mybox in 0VL. C0M. The Holy Mother of Order said, "The primordial fiend celestial is the calamity of the chaos. If the Tao ancestor really becomes a primordial fiend celestial, I hope you won't be obsessed with old feelings." Laozi left after saying, "If teacher really becomes a primordial fiend celestial, my sword will definitely point at him." The world fell into silence. Inside the 100-peak immortal river, Hanju ended the simulation trial. After hundreds of battles, he could finally easily kill 1,000 foolish sword sages. He even tried to challenge 2,000. Although it was difficult, he was not helpless. Even without using the primordial divine rage, every fiend celestial Dharma idol had a powerful one-on-one combat ability. At the very least, fighting a foolish sword sage alone was not a problem. In a good mood, Hanju began to preach the Tao to the millions of disciples in the 100-peak immortal river. This lecture lasted for 100 years. Then, Hanju didn't resume cultivation immediately. Instead, he sent out a trace of his soul thought and headed to the immortal world. The immeasurable calamity was about to begin. He wanted to take a look. His soul thought transformed into his main body, and his cultivation level was controlled at the zenith heaven golden immortal realm. This cultivation was only on the surface. Even a pseudo-sage couldn't hurt his soul thought. Hanju planned to go to the divine palace to take a look. The protagonist of the calamity, Qin Ling, was staying there. Speaking of which, Hanju still remembered the divine palace. Before the previous calamity, the divine palace was a place where geniuses gathered in the immortal world. It still existed today. Of course, this was all thanks to him. Otherwise, how could Zhang Guxing have risen up? Hanju flew forward. He suddenly thought of Han Tuo's mother. Her soul had been sealed for so many years. Should he let her out and reincarnate? It was not that he could not. The current Hanju no longer needed to worry too much. In the heavenly Tao, no one could hurt the people he wanted to protect. Next time, I guess, Hanju would release her the next time he traveled the immortal world. Apart from looking at the divine palace, Hanju also planned to go to the netherworld to see his eldest disciple and Han Tuo's daughter, Han Xinyuan. Han Tuo had a son and a daughter. His son established the Han family and was Han Yu's ancestor. His daughter, Han Xinyuan, had been busy cultivating and later joined the netherworld. Under Yang Tiandong's care, she was already a female ghost deity and had a very high status. Along the way, Hanju didn't fly too fast and took a look at the current situation of the immortal world. It had been hundreds of thousands of years since he last traveled the immortal world. It was naturally different now. Hanju noticed that there were already more than 3,000 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals in the immortal world. This did not include the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals in the chaos. There were also hundreds of pseudo-sages. Not bad. Several months later, Hanju finally arrived at the Divine Palace. The Divine Palace was located in the sky. The palace was placed above the clouds. There were layers after layers of magnificent palaces, as far as the eye could see. Hanju secretly used the power of the concealment fiend celestial and disappeared without a trace. He found Qin Ling's aura and quickly came to his courtyard. After more than 100,000 years, Qin Ling was already an immortal emperor, but his status in the divine palace was not high. Because his potential was average, his residence was not considered high. It could only be said to be average. Qin Ling was sitting on the steps and looking at the cauldron in front of him with a depressed expression. Why is this emperor essence pill so difficult to refine? Qin Ling muttered to himself, feeling a little discouraged. Hanju suddenly appeared and smiled. It means that you don't have the talent to refine pills. Shocked, Qin Ling suddenly stood up and asked angrily, "Who are you?" Hanju walked around the cauldron and came to his side. He smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. I'm also a disciple of the Divine Palace. I've only heard of your deeds and came to take a look." Qin Ling snorted and mocked himself. "You want to see me, a mediocre prodigy who relies on pills?" His potential was actually not bad, but he was definitely at the bottom in the Divine Palace. Many disciples his age had already stepped into the deity realm. His enemy was also a prodigy in the Buddhist sect. He had already reached the Zenith Heaven realm 10,000 years ago. The difference between the two became greater and greater. Qin Ling felt despair every time he thought about this. Could he really take revenge? Hanju smiled. "Your potential is mediocre, but you're persistent. The mighty figures in the world are all tenacious and persistent." Qin Ling was in a good mood and no longer pulled a long face. He let Hanju walk to the stone table at the side and chat. After the two of them sat down, Qin Ling asked curiously, "Brother, what's your name?" Although the divine palace has countless disciples, there aren't many as handsome as you. Rather, there's no one. The geniuses of the divine palace were all handsome and beautiful. The men and the women were like immortals. However, they all looked like mortals compared to the disciple in front of him. Hanju smiled and said, "My name is Liu Bei. I'm just good looking." Liu Bei. Qinling thought to himself. He had never heard of him. In other words, the other party was not a top prodigy. Thinking of this, Qinling relaxed. They could be friends as long as the difference in potential was not great. He would never think that Hanju was not a disciple of the Divine Palace. The Divine Palace was a top-notch providence sect in the world. They had sages at the top. Who would dare to infiltrate and cause trouble? The two of them began to chat. They chatted about everything from ancient legends to the mortal world. The more Qinling chatted, the happier he became. Very few people suited his taste. Most of the Divine Palace disciples only exchanged their cultivation insights or compared cultivation levels. Very few people were like Liu Bei, who did not talk about cultivation and only talked about boring things. Several hours later, Hanju smiled and asked, "Do you want me to help you see why your pills failed? Brother Liu also knows alchemy? A little, please." Qinling immediately stood up in anticipation. Hanju didn't know alchemy, but with his cultivation realm, he secretly cast a spell, and the pill was quickly born. It was that simple. However, he deliberately cast a spell with an unfathomable gesture, causing Qinling to exclaim in admiration. 5 minutes later, the Emperor Essence pill flew out of the cauldron and landed in Qinling's hand. Qinling's hands trembled as he muttered, "What dense immortal Emperor Essence Qi? How powerful." Hanju said smugly, "How about it? I'm worthy of you calling me Big Brother." Yes, Big Brother Liu. Brother, please teach me. This technique is not easy to teach. It's a technique passed down in the family and can't be taught to others. Chapter 791 Terror of the Divine Authority General. Chapter 791 Terror of the Divine Authority General. Hanju helped Qinling refine 99 Emperor Essence pills, almost making him kneel down. He couldn't understand this alchemy technique. This was because the herbs he had prepared could only be refined 100 times. According to the 10% success rate, Liu Bei's alchemy technique was almost 100% successful. The only time he failed was when Hanju stopped in time. In the courtyard, Qinling began to massage Hanju's back and shoulders, trying his best to please him. "Brother, what do you want to eat and drink? Just tell me. You're my big brother from now on. Take 60% of these pills. You can't give me all of them. Are you really giving them to me? Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. C0M, so you don't need it. Alright." Qinling was overjoyed after accepting all the Emperor Essence pills. He had never been so happy in the past 100,000 years. His gaze softened as he looked at Hanju. He was his benefactor. "Brother, you've helped me so much. What do you need me to do?" Qinling asked. He would really feel uneasy if he did not repay him. Hanju smiled and said, "I want the most precious treasure in the world. Can you help me find it?" Qinling asked in surprise, "What is that?" "You will understand in the future." Qinling was deep in thought. Little did he know that Hanju was just patronizing him. Qinling thought that it was a Dharma treasure. Most of the treasures in the immortal world were Dharma treasures. Hanju left several days later. Qinling began to consume the Emperor Essence pills in seclusion. In the next few decades, Hanju traveled the immortal world and saw its current prosperity. The cultivation culture filled every corner of the world. Even mortal villages knew at least one cultivation method. If not for the chaotic heavenly road, and the fact that all living beings did not explore the chaos, the immortal world would have long been saturated. It would be a disaster when resources and territory became limited, and the number of cultivators continued to increase. Netherworld. Hanju came to Han Xinyuan's residence. Han Xinyuan had inherited his and Han Tuo's good looks. Wearing a white robe, she was the only one in the room as she silently and lonely meditated. Hanju calculated and discovered that Han Xinyuan had very little karma, even less than Hanyu. She had been alone for 1,000,000 years. It was even more so after entering the netherworld. Although she held great power, she had been cultivating alone most of the time. Hanju didn't disturb her. Instead, he quietly covered her with the great Tao of extreme origin, and let her quickly enter a state of Tao comprehension. This was the first time the two of them met. Although they were related by blood, Han Xinyuan didn't know of his existence at all. Han Tua and Yang Tiandong didn't say anything either. After all, Hanju's status was too high. They didn't want to burden Han Xinyuan and cause great karma, which would also reduce trouble for Hanju. 10 years later, Hanju left quietly. Han Xinyuan opened her beautiful eyes and frowned. What kind of power is this? Did I really comprehend it? Han Xinyuan muttered to herself. Then, she closed her eyes again and tried to sense it carefully. Hanju's Tao heart was calm again after the 100 years of travel ended. He came to the second Tao field. The weakest fiend celestial in the second Tao field was a pseudo-sage. Among them, the flesh fiend celestial and the void fiend celestial had just become primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortals. Hanju's fiend celestial army had been constantly becoming stronger in the long years, just like him. Li Yao and Tao Comprehension Sword opened their eyes. They hurriedly stood up and bowed upon seeing him appear. Hanju sat down and started to preach the Tao. His voice resounded throughout the second Tao field. 100 years later the lecture ended. Hanju was about to leave. Sister, go out for a while, Li Yao suddenly said. Tao Comprehension Sword was stunned for a moment before leaving obediently. Li Yao pulled him back. Hanju remained silent and sat beside her. 20 years later, Hanju returned to the main Tao field and prepared to continue cultivating. Detected that the great Tao Providence Divine Authority has been triggered. The Divine Authority Generals will monitor the entire chaos. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and destroy the great Tao Providence Divine Authority. You will obtain a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, a supreme treasure, a mystical power inheritance, and a new function of the system. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and ignore this matter for the time being. You will obtain a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the Tao field. Great Tao Providence Divine Authority? Life was coming. A word appeared in his mind when Hanju saw the first option. Scam. The second option caused his eyes to light up. Upgrade the Tao field. It could still level up? Hanju directly chose the second option. Nothing was more important than safety. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the Tao field. The Tao field has begun to upgrade. Hanju took out the creation spirit stone and fused it with one of the fiend celestial chi. Then, he placed his attention on the great Tao Providence Divine Authority. I want to know how the Divine Authority Generals will monitor the chaos? Hanju asked in his mind. It had been a long time since the system had triggered such a choice. This meant that this matter was not simple, and even involved his life. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. The Great Tao Providence Divine Authority will create 10,000 Divine Authority Generals. They will check every corner of the chaos and search for dangerous elements that might threaten the chaos and eliminate them. Hanju frowned. This was not good. Do my son and I have a way to avoid the inspection of the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority? Hanju continued to ask in his mind. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No, Hanju frowned. Even the Tao field can't avoid it? The Tao field can resist, but it cannot avoid detection. It will be treated as a danger factor, and will be attacked by 10,000 Divine Authority Generals. That was good. It meant that the Divine Authority Generals would target the Tao field, but they might not be able to break in. However, the consequences would be unimaginable if this matter blew up. Hanju asked, how strong are the Divine Authority Generals? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. A Divine Authority General is equivalent to a Great Tao Sage. 10,000 Great Tao Sages? Hanju's eyes widened, and he stood up. How could he block this calamity? Hanju frowned. This great Tao providence divine authority was equivalent to the immunity system of the human body? It had to be said that this power was too domineering. No force in the chaos could resist it. It would definitely be a slaughter. Any existence who faced such a force would either die or obediently wait for their inspection to end. He definitely couldn't stop it with the current strength of the heavenly Tao. The Tao field was also in the heavenly Tao and might endanger it. The heavenly Tao had finally developed until now, but Hanju still didn't want to implicate it and all living beings. I want to know if the 10,000 divine authority generals will act together or separately? Together. No lifespan was deducted, but the answer was the worst. When will the 10,000 divine authority generals reach the heavenly Tao? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. 5 million years. Hanju's brows suddenly relaxed. The situation was not that bad. After all, the chaos was extremely vast. How could they sweep through the entire chaos in a short period of time? Chapter 792 Creator Lord Invincible. Chapter 792 Creator Lord Invincible. But then again, won't they be able to hide everywhere if 10,000 divine authority generals act together? They aren't strict enough. Or do they have special methods? Hanju thought silently. He did not use the derivation function. He had already checked. He couldn't escape this disaster at all. Why waste his lifespan? Hanju adjusted his state of mind and started cultivating. He wanted to attain the Great Tao Supreme Realm before the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority attacked. Otherwise, he would not feel safe. It was not so easy for Hanju to fight 2,000 foolish sword sages alone, let alone 10,000 divine authority generals. Huang Zuantian was meditating and cultivating in a pool of water in the mysterious space. Like Li Daokong and Shi Du Dao, he had already become a calamity life controller, but he needed some time to move freely. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. C0M a figure appeared by the pool. Huang Zuantian, have you thought about it? The mysterious figure asked with a hoarse voice. Huang Zuantian opened his eyes and asked, Do I have a choice? The mysterious figure said, Indeed. But you'll suffer less if you think it through. You've been captured until now, and no one has come to save you. Why are you so loyal to the heavenly Tao? Huang Zuantian was silent. The mysterious figure continued. The chaos has existed for too long. The current chaos is still deathly silent. It has wasted space and everything we have now. Everything is because of those great Tao sages and great Tao divine spirits. They are afraid that all living beings will surpass them. They are afraid that they can't control the chaotic order. So they always restrict the development of the chaos. What life has to do is overturn everything and create an unprecedented new era. Can you imagine the prosperity of the heavenly Tao appearing in every corner of the chaos? That's what life pursues. Before that, all the casualties caused by the battle are worth it. You should understand. Huang Zuantian took a deep breath and asked, Can I meet the leader? The mysterious figure said, Life has no leader. Every life is equal. Huang Zuantian raised his eyebrows and asked, Someone has to give orders, right? The mysterious figure was silent. Huang Zuantian cursed silently. Trying to trick me? It was impossible for a fully formed force to be completely equal internally. You have to show your value if you want to see master, the mysterious figure said. Huang Zuantian said, You should understand me since you captured me. I started from the bottom and climbed the ladder in the Jia school to the position of sect master. I even attained the Tao. This experience is not something that other sages can compare to. I don't have a powerful background, and I have grown up relying on my own ability. Although life is powerful now, I feel that you lack management and true plans. You're right. There's indeed no need for me to continue to contribute if the heavenly Tao doesn't save me. It would be best if life made me stronger. Since I've joined life, I don't want to be cannon fodder. Of course, I have to show my value if I want to obtain power and status. You're responsible for receiving me. I'll definitely remember your kindness if I soar in the future. His tone was sincere, and the mysterious figure was moved. All right, I'll go ask first. Continue cultivating. Thank you, fellow Taoist. The mysterious figure vanished. Huang Zuantian continued cultivating. He did not lose his composure to prevent anyone from spying on him. Heavenly Court, Numinous Palace. The evil Heavenly Emperor sat on the Emperor's throne and flipped through the jade slip on the table. The jade slip opened and he scanned it. A large amount of information surged into his mind. These jade slips contained restrictions and contained a huge amount of information that mortals could not imagine. Black Heaven General suddenly entered the hall and cupped his fists. Your Majesty, the 2 candidates have arrived. Do you want to see them? The evil Heavenly Emperor replied, let them in. Only one of the 3 divine generals of the Heavenly Court was left ever since Han Tuo and Etian left. The evil Heavenly Emperor had already screened many heavenly generals, but he was still not satisfied. Soon, 2 figures walked into the hall and knelt in front of him. The 2 of them were tall and mighty. Their eyes were filled with cold killing intent. It was obvious that they had just come from the battlefield. The evil Heavenly Emperor sized them up. He was slightly satisfied, but he still felt some regret. I'll let you try first. I'll give you 1,000,000 heavenly troops to take down this world in 10,000 years. The evil Heavenly Emperor threw out a jade slip, and one of the divine generals hurriedly caught it. Black Heaven General, bring them down. The evil Heavenly Emperor waved his hand. The Black Heaven General immediately accepted the order. After the 3 of them left, the evil Heavenly Emperor looked at the empty numinous palace and was lost in thought. He suddenly missed the scene of Etian arguing in the hall. The numinous palace was too quiet without him. He was always worried when giving missions without Han Tuo. No, he still had to choose the prodigy of providence. The evil Heavenly Emperor's eyes flickered as his thoughts drifted to the heavenly Tao. Time passed quickly. 50,000 years passed quickly. The Tao field was finally successfully upgraded. The various chi in the main Tao field and the second Tao field began to increase majestically. The Tao field has been upgraded. The array formation has been upgraded to the Creator Lord level. The space inside the Tao field has been expanded. Tao field immortal chi has increased by 10 times. Khanate chi has increased by 10 times. The Tao field can block all prying eyes. Hanju opened his eyes and looked at the information in front of him. Creator Lord level? There was a realm above the Tao Creator? Hanju frowned. He couldn't help but ask in his mind, is there a Creator Lord in the current chaos? 9 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. In that case, the ceiling of the chaos was the Tao Creator realm. In other words, from today onwards, no existence could barge into his Tao field? Hanju was overwhelmed with joy. An unprecedented sense of security surged into his heart. No. Steady. I want to know if there is anyone in the current chaos who can break through the Tao field. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No. Can the Tao field be broken through? A quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. You can be controlled by the enemy and made to destroy the Tao field yourself. Hanju. But it was indeed possible on second thought. Perhaps those mysterious and powerful existences could take advantage of his carelessness to control his consciousness. It was not impossible. Hanju secretly noted this down. He couldn't let his guard down even if there was an absolutely defensive Tao field. Although the Tao field had been upgraded again, it only expanded the internal space and couldn't cover the entire heavenly Tao. Otherwise, Hanju could directly protect the heavenly Tao. What a pity. No matter what, Hanju was very happy. 5 million years later, he could still hide here even if he couldn't defeat 10,000 divine authority generals. It would be fine even if he exposed his primordial fiend celestial identity. At most, I'll wait until I reach the Tao Creator realm and kill all the enemies. Hanju felt that he was already invincible. But he couldn't be arrogant. Hanju immediately started the simulation trial and challenged the 10,000 foolish sword sages. He was tortured. Hanju's eyes became clear, and he became restrained after he ended the simulation trial. Thank you, foolish sword sage. Chapter 793 3 Pure Sacred World. Chapter 793 3 Pure Sacred World. The millions of disciples in the 100-peak Immortal River were very excited and overjoyed after the Tao field was successfully upgraded. I didn't expect the spirit chi in our Tao field to increase. I feel that mortals can become immortals in a day. Too exaggerated, but it's about the same. Sect Master is really powerful. The spirit chi in the Sage Tao field is probably not as dense as ours. Nonsense. Aren't we in the Sage Tao field? I've been to the chaos, but I've never seen a place that can compare to the 100-peak Immortal River in spirit chi. On the Cultivate Diligently Become Immortal Mountain, the Black Hell Chicken, the three-headed WRM King, and the other personal disciples were also discussing. They knew the truth better. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. C0M. This meant that Hanju had another breakthrough, the Black Hell Chicken side. How high is Master's cultivation level? He can still break through constantly. Previously he could kill a great Tao sage. We can't catch up even if we cultivate with all our might. The chaotic heavenly dog nodded desperately. Ada laughed and said, "Isn't that a good thing? Our cultivation levels are still top-notch in the immortal world, even if we can't compare to Master." The other personal disciples laughed and chatted. Sun Chang'an couldn't help but think of the personal disciples who had gone out to train. He suddenly found it funny. You guys have worked hard to explore the world. We might even have surpassed you when you return. Every time they heard Zhou Fan, Jiang Yi, and the others bragging in the myriad worlds projection, they were very envious, but they knew this. These guys only chose to talk about good things. They definitely had more bad experiences. Han8 urged, "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and cultivate. If not for waiting for you, Master Chicken, and I might have already become sages." The others rolled their eyes at him. He really knew how to brag. However, they quickly quietened down and focused on cultivating. They should work harder. On the other side, Hanju began to check his emails. He hadn't read them for a long time and didn't know how his friends were doing. Your good friend Etion has learned a great Tao mystical power. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked and was severely injured. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Shi Du Dao was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your son Han Tua was attacked by a mysterious demon. X987432. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren created 3,000 Buddhist Tao techniques. His providence has increased. Your disciple Tao Sovereign was attacked by the Magus race. X820432. Your disciple Zhao Xinyuan. There had been fewer opportunities and more battles recently. This showed that the recent situation in the chaos had begun to become chaotic. It was normal for things to be chaotic occasionally. They could remain calm. Hanju was very comfortable now. Nothing could threaten him, matter how chaotic things became. He continued reading. Few emails were worth stopping and looking at. An email attracted him, just as he was about to reach the end. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has absorbed the providence of the Calamity Life Controller and obtained a trace of the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. The Great Tao Providence Divine Authority could be absorbed? Hanju showed a frown. No, it should be related to primordial origin in Huang Zuantian's body. Primordial origin had almost become a primordial fiend celestial. It could be said to be unfathomable. From the current situation, the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority was the supreme rule of the chaos, and also its foundation. The Great Tao Providence Divine Authority would be triggered when the chaos was in danger. Didn't that mean that the chaos would be destroyed once the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority was destroyed? Hanju asked silently. Will the Tao field be affected if the chaos is destroyed? No. The Tao field exists independently. His lifespan was not even deducted. It could be seen that the system was very confident. Hanju was relieved now. No wonder when he deduced the future. The existence that was seemingly himself wanted to destroy the chaos and create the primordial chaos. Perhaps one day, he would want to create the supreme primordial universe when the chaos made him tired of it. It was not impossible. Hanju had never been an absolutely kind and righteous person, let alone now. It was only because he was too weak. Hanju continued cultivating after reading the emails. This was how time passed. He had always been cultivating. 50,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju opened his eyes and prepared to go to the 33rd heaven. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du was summoning him again. He was about to stand up when a message popped up. Yang Che has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 2 stars. What the hell? Hanju's heart tightened. He checked his interpersonal relationships and quickly found Yang Che's profile picture. Yang Che, early stage heavenly Tao sage, immeasurable emperor, disciple of the Jie school. He is dissatisfied with you because sect master Tianju flattered you too much. Current hatred points, 2 stars. You scared me. Hanju was unhappy that he was actually frightened by a heavenly Tao sage. He immediately moved into the universal hall. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du immediately sent a voice transmission to the other sages upon seeing him appear. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Emperor Shao, Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Qiu Shilai Fong Liang, Jin Shen Pan Xian, Su Dudao Su Qi Li Taigu Primordial Chaos Buddha, Zhang Guxing, Long Hao Ji Xianshan, Divine Might Buddha, and Yang Che all arrived. Hanju saw that Yang Che's expression was arrogant. He was a true prodigy. Yang Che bowed to him and introduced himself. On the surface, he still gave Hanju enough face. Hanju looked at the heavenly Tao sages. Unknowingly, the sages of the heavenly Tao were already so powerful. It was normal for a new sage to be dissatisfied with him. Hanju couldn't be bothered to bicker with Yang Che. It couldn't be helped. Sages were no different from ants in his eyes. Throwing Yang Che into the primordial heavenly prison was even a waste of his time. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at Li Taigu and said, "You can speak first." Li Taigu nodded. When all the sages' gazes landed on him, he said, "Something happened in the chaos." Hanju almost rolled his eyes. Heavenly Venerate Wufa lost his temper and cursed. "What are you waiting for? Just say it." He also looked dissatisfied. Li Taigu smiled and continued. The 3 pure ones of the past have reunited. Originally, the heavenly sect master escaped from the ancient desolate and was hunted down by life. Later, Laozi took action. After that, the heavenly lord of primordial beginning announced that the 3 pure ones would gather again and open up the 3 pure sacred world to create a sacred world for the cultivators of the Tao sect to avoid the great Tao immeasurable calamity. All cultivators of the Tao sect can enter. Some time ago, life attacked the 3 pure sacred world and returned in failure. Laozi killed 5 lives with 1 strike, shocking the chaos. The 3 pure ones are the first generation sages of the heavenly Tao. Panga's essence soul transformed into the 3 pure ones. They are also the personal disciples of the Tao ancestor. Where are the Tao sect cultivators in the chaos from? Naturally from our heavenly Tao. The 3 pure sacred world wants to poach the heavenly Tao. The more Li Taigu spoke, the more excited he became. He didn't have the composure of a sage, much less a sage of the human school. The human school was established by Laozi. The sages were moved. The new sages also frowned. In the past, they might have joined the 3 pure sacred world, but it was different now. They were already sages, and the masters of the heavenly Tao. In their opinion, the actions of the 3 pure sacred world were offensive. Heavenly Venerate Wufa looked at Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and said, "Isn't that your teacher? Don't you know about this?" Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "I indeed don't know. I've actually been in contact with teacher after the heavenly Tao severed karma with the deity realm of the ruins of End. My information came from teacher's Dharma idol, but I've never been able to guess teacher's thoughts." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.